All right, call today's meeting to order. It's the May 1st, 2024 meeting of Appeal Committee. This is Water and Waste Environment Committee sitting in rotation on appeals. I think I speak for all of us when I say there's some relief that this is our last meeting in this rotation on appeal. We'll be back again in about a year's time. Two items on the agenda. My name is Brian Mays. I'm the City Councilor for St. Vital Ward. I'll be chairing today's meeting, at least in part. I have some time restrictions, so does Councilor Gilroy. We'll figure that out. Joined by my council colleagues, Councilor Gilroy, Councilor Dobson, and Councilor Santos, as well as city staff. Do the land and water acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. A note of appreciation for the late Jay Eady, who passed away yesterday, who had a very long run indeed as a city councilor, including almost a 13-year streak on the executive from 1995. What was it? From November of 92 to October of 2005. Had a chance to talk to him a few months ago, and he said how much he'd enjoyed his years on council, and he wasn't jaded, he wasn't cynical about it. So hopefully we all end up that way. So, Mr. Clerk, do we need to approve minutes?
Correct.
So moved. Thank you, Councilor Dobson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, that's carried. Any other procedural matters before we had a number of late registrations, so our clerk will try and juggle that as we move forward. Two matters, both in the, certainly heard former Councilor Klein talk about the money collected to pave these roads over the years and then not getting paved, but that's not what we're here on. So first up is 1375 Liberty.
Correct. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be a part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to reject a variance for 1375 Liberty Street under file DAV 120994A/2024B. Members of the committee, please note communications were received in support of and in opposition to the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. All participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you have been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube now, please mute your audio player. I'll turn it over to a member of the administration for a brief summary.
I wonder if the members of the admin can just introduce themselves as well, so people.
Yes, my name is Andrew Ziegler. I'm a development planning officer with Department.
And I'm Donna King, other development planning officer.
Okay. Yeah, so just for clarity, this one is the variance was denied by the director and then the appeal is from that. So, okay, away we go.
Yes.
All right, so this is in regards to 1375 Liberty. Good day, councillors and Mr. Clerk. The subject property is located on the east side of Liberty, south of Wilkes, in the rural residential area of the Wilkes South neighborhood within the Assiniboia community and the Charleswood Tuxedo Westwood Ward. 1375 Liberty is 186.1 feet wide by 555 feet deep and 2.4 acres in area. The proposal is to maintain all existing accessory structures with a combined floor area of 4,900 square feet and a height of 23 feet. The applicant indicates that he requires all the existing accessory structures for his family to store a tow-behind camper, a Class A motorhome, an enclosed 6-space snowmobile trailer, a watercraft and other family belongings, as well as lawn and yard maintenance tools and equipment. It is recommended that this appeal be rejected. This concludes my summary, and I'm open to any questions.
Can you give us the lot size again then? 2.5 acres, roughly 180,
hundred and 86
go
feet
ahead.
wide, 186 feet wide and 2.4 acres in area,
Okay, 500 something deep.
555 deep.
We know where this is on the sort of,
It is south of Wilkes,
sorry, the
the structure
impugned garage is, yeah.
is in the rear yard,
It's in the rear.
close to the
Okay.
rear property.
Okay, and I guess, yeah,
One question, so when this was built, was there any building permits?
There were no permits or approvals obtained prior to construction.
Right.
So the garage is already built?
The garage from the outside appears to be completed. Inspection photos indicate that the inside is not finished yet.
nothing rides on whether the street is, but there's no lane here, I don't know, is this?
No, it backed
paved?
onto another property. There's no lane.
And street paved, unpaved, doesn't matter for the purposes of this.
No, it wouldn't matter.
Clarity. This is interesting. This is, I think, a little bit newer to me. So the director is rejecting the structure that's on the property right now.
Correct.
Okay, and if this, can I ask the question, if the committee were to agree with the director, the property owner would have to remove the structure that's already built, the accessory structure that's already built?
Or amended, renovated to be compliant.
Okay, is that where we can amend it to make it comply? Can this committee do that?
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
And can you just kind of go over why it doesn't comply? Can you just kind of go over that?
So normally as the site would be permitted 880 square feet of accessory structures. We do have a policy that larger lots such as this, we would grant 1,660 square feet. And this far exceeds the allowable that we would permit, even though if it wasn't compliant.
because it's stating it's 4,900 square feet.
Combined, there's also an existing garage, I believe 24 by 26 on the south property line. So they're wanting to maintain the existing garage as well as the large structure built without permits.
This particular building, is it for commercial?
No,
Or,
it's it's been indicated for residential use only.
Good, thank you for that, Mr. Clerk, on we roll.
Okay, so up first to speak, we have John Winthrop.
This is on behalf of the.
This is on behalf of the appellant.
Is everyone who's registered on behalf of the appellant then?
No. We do have registrations and submissions in opposition to the appeal as well.
Oh, so that wasn't the admin speaking, that was the admin giving us an overview, not the admin is, okay.
Correct.
So, shifting balances, yes, fair point. Welcome, Mr. Winthrop.
Morning. I'm going to let the clerk set up my presentation. Happy May Day.
You?
Actually, I'd like to thank Donna Kane. She did exceptional services here. I contacted her and she very quickly responded and provided some really good information for me to be able to do this presentation today. I'm going to spend a little bit more time than usually talking about the neighborhood because I don't think it's very familiar to some of the councilors, members of the audience, and happens to be two of them today in the same area. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the neighborhood context. So 1375 Liberty Street. My client is the applicant. We're at the variance stages that is required before permits can be issued for a detached accessory structure. My client, the applicant, is also the appellant. The director had rejected these, and we're at the appeal hearing today. Something that we require before we can get permits for the structure. The director has rejected 4,900 square feet. Our actual building is 20 feet. It says 23 feet, but we recalculated and it's only 20 feet. The director is under the zoning bylaws, 880 square feet, 13 feet in height. 1375 Liberty Street is in the Wilkes South neighborhood. It's about an 8-minute walk south of Wilkes, a kilometer southeast of the Varsity View complex, a kilometer and a quarter southwest of Assiniboine Forest, 3 kilometers west of Fort White Alive. It's not in an intensification target area, it's in the Wilkes neighborhoods area. There's no pipe sewer, there's no pipe water. There is a secondary plan, the Wilkes South Secondary Plan bylaw, that it happens to allow subdivision of lands with unserviced or below standard urban services. It's been around since '94. These lands are in the Liberty Loudon North Policy area, where the average lot area is 2.8 acres, the median lot area is 2 acres, and 2.5 acre minimum lot area is allowed underneath the Wilkes South Secondary Plan. The Winnipeg zoning bylaw has a number of these properties zoned A and RR5. There is some RM1 manufacturing along Loudon Road, as well as along Wilkes Avenue nearby. Within 15-minute walking distance, there is nothing. There are no amenities. This is a car-dependent area. There's minimal transit and it's somewhat bikeable. I'll get into that, but there are no walking amenities. I'll go over some of the houses that are in the area that are out there. These are some pictures of some houses along Loudon Road. This gives you a flavor of the sizes of the houses that are being constructed and that are out there currently. There are quite large dwellings, single detached dwellings out there, many with them with attached structures on them. Again, many houses large. These are brand new houses, some of them with 3-4 car garages that are attached to the dwelling. If they're attached, then they're not subject to the same regulation. So if you attach it to your house, you can have a very large garage. Again, these are, and one thing I should point out, these are newer houses under construction. I just took that picture over the weekend. They have all been raised. I'll get into it, but my client's house is a lot older and is at a lower level. These houses are 10 to 12 feet above my client's houses, but they're raising the height of the dwellings. Again, very large number of houses. These are along Liberty Street, nearby, close to my client. Again, you can see the number of cars in the parking, 4 or 5 cars in the driveway, triple car garages, some unique, interesting design houses out there, again, quite large. This is a triple car garage. This is again along Liberty Street. This is a large double garage. This is a large house with a garage, and if you notice, there's a poster on the property right now currently advertising for variances for a larger detached accessory structure, 17 feet in height, 1,800 square feet total floor area that the director approved. That's going on right now. That site is posted with the appeal deadline to May 10th. Because there have been a number of variances over the last 3 years granted for large accessory structures. As you can see, a number of people with a lack of amenities require cars, and a lot of them have detached garages, detached greenhouses, detached barns. We'll get into that. Here now we're looking at a number of larger structures that are existing along Liberty and Loudon nearby that are above 800 square feet. As you can see there are a variety of building materials. Some of them are older. This used to be a farming area. I think the closest compatible to this area might be South St. Vital, that the ward councillor from St. Vital will be familiar with, perhaps Balgona Road up in West Cadonan. But this is a former kind of farming area. There are still some farmyards out there, but you can see there's a number of large accessory structures that are out there, some older, some newer. That's a very new one that was constructed only in the last couple of years. As you can see, a lot of them have large overhead doors. A lot of them are used to be associated with the farm operations out there. Some of them no longer, but they still retain the large detached accessory structures that have been around there, I'd say, for more than a few decades. This is a triple car carport with a detached garage for 2 cars. Again, a lot of detached large accessory structures along Loudon Road and Liberty Road. Here's an overview view of a large detached accessory structure on a person's property. Well, let's get into transportation. Transit. We're 1 kilometer currently from Route 98 on Ridgewood Avenue. To get to a grocery store, it is a 49-minute walk to a transit stop and then a very long bus ride to get to the nearest grocery store, which happens to be the Co-op over at the Outlet Mall. You're looking at anywhere between an 80 to 100-minute trip just by transit, or you can walk to the Charles Wood Safeway up on Grant in 52 minutes. Again, getting your necessities such as groceries, you're not likely to take transit. In 2025, with the transit routes, we will be, actually, they're going to move the bus stop even further to the north, and we will become 1.5 kilometers from a bus stop on Belco Avenue, 3.9 kilometers from a bus at the Outlet Mall, and 6.5 kilometers from the bus at Fort White. There are no cycling routes nearby. The front street has predominantly driveways, no boulevards, no sidewalks. It's paved, rural standard, P3 ditch drainage. My client's property is on the right hand of the photo with the red dot on it. Nearby, all the lands are zoned RR5, rural residential, a variety of lot sizes you can see in here, including 2.5 to larger lots. There are mostly single detached dwellings nearby, as well as agricultural uses. This is a view of directly to the west of us at 1376 Liberty Street. It is completely screened from us with a variety of trees. This is from Google Street View. I did go out there on Sunday and take pictures. This is directly to the southwest. This is, I would say, the most impacted resident. Right next door to us at the back of their property is their septic field. And they have a large single detached dwelling at the front of the property with, I think, a 3 or 4 car garage. That's 1381. To the southwest, as you can see across Loudon Road, is a very large single detached structure. I showed you that photo before. I thought it was actually the community center. Directly to the east, you can see that blue house is on the east side of Loudon. On the other side of Loudon, actually between us and Loudon Road, is a farmyard with horses and hay. That closest house is 800 feet away. To the northeast, again, is a farmyard with, you can see that dump truck. There's some sea cans on the property, some older buildings, some outside materials. That's directly to the northwest of us. To the north, again, this dump truck is on the property directly to the north. It's a farmyard. I took this picture on Sunday. So that is directly north of our garage at 1345. To the northwest is where the single detached dwelling associated with the farmyard is located. As you can see here in the picture, the driveway, as you can see in the picture, is on our property. The trees and everything else is on the adjacent property to the northwest. So the subject lands, as was stated before, it's 105, 783 square feet, 2.4 acres. This interior lot is rectangular. The front yard is 302 feet. The lot is 555 feet in depth. The garage at the back is 474 feet from the front property line. All our buildings on the property cover 8.5% of the lot. 8.5%. You've heard me talk about that before here. As you know, in infill lots, they're around 40 to 45%. We're at 8.5% of lot coverage.
How far, wait, can you go back one? How far is the easterly edge of garage from easterly property line?
31 feet.
Okay.
31 feet from the east property line, over 50, 60 feet or plus from the south property line, 20 feet from the east property line. So we needed no variances for yards or anything like that. Again, we're only at 8.5 lot coverage. Our property is the size of 1 CFL football field plus 4 basketball courts. That's to give you the scale of how big this property is. So 1 football field, imagine sitting up in the stadium looking at that, plus 4 basketball courts at the end of it. That's the size of our property. Here's the view onto the property from Loudon Road. There is a bridge, shelter belt of trees along Loudon Road. Again, there is a small break in there. And you can see just slightly to the left of the small car.
2 minutes extension.
Councilor Santos
2 minutes.
moves a 2-minute extension. All those in favor?
Aye.
This was taken on Sunday. As you can see, a large number of trees. I can only imagine what the foliage looks like during the summertime. You can barely see the building. If you can see the building in this picture, it's the red building slightly to the left of that opening. This is the view from Loudon Road. Again, this is just a picture of all the trees that are planted along Loudon Road. along the property line. I believe these might be in the public right of way, so the property is very well screened from Loudon Road. This is a view from Liberty Street. You can't even see the structure. Again, it's quite far back at the end of the property. Imagine standing at the end zone of the football field and looking back at the other end of the football field. That's how far away the garage is. This is the garage that's been constructed. It's red. You think you would have seen it in the pictures from Loudon Road, but it's heavily screened from the surrounding properties. It's 86 feet behind the house. Has a combined total area plus this other garage of 4,900 square feet and a height. We actually need only 20 feet, not 23 feet. No variances for lot coverage or no variances for yards. So why do you need a variance? Well, all residential zoning districts, R1, R2, R5, all have the same restriction of 880 square feet, which equals about 5.5 parking stalls. So it doesn't matter if you're 25 by 100 or you are the size of a football field, you have the same size restriction for a detached accessory structure. Which is my main point here. You could have a property the size of a basketball court, 50 by 94 feet, and you can cover 20% of that lot with a 880 square feet, or you could be the size of a CFL football field and have the same 880 square feet, and it would only cover 1% of the property. So I think the zoning bylaw restrictions are very heavy on this property. It's not related.
Are you about done?
Yes.
Okay.
What is directly north of the subject lands at 1345? There are you can see behind a row of mature deciduous and coniferous trees, a berm with coniferous trees, and then is a dwelling. That's it. I'm sure you have questions.
Are there questions, Councillor?
Yeah.
Councillor Sandra.
I guess my question is, since you're here on behalf of the applicant, how come permits were not pulled? That's what it seems like I'm hearing from the administration.
Yeah, my client would like to address that next. He's going to speak next and would like
is
to
he
really
speaking
address that.
next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he will come up and speak next and address that.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
What?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
What is this? We seem to be combining there's clearly some existing garage that doesn't seem to be a problem, but we're combining that for the calculations with the new building. Why? So the total outbuilding size is a certain amount, so you're saying you have to combine the two. So what's the size of the building that we're dealing with here?
The size of the building here, I'd have to take a look at the drawings. I can't recall off the top of my head. Donna might have that at her tip of her fingers.
It's 70 by 80, 70 feet by 80 feet.
Okay.
But you are correct. So all buildings that are not attached to the house are subject to the 880 square feet, whether you're R1 or R5, whether you're the size of a basketball court or a football field, you're restricted to that. As you can see in a lot of the photos, a lot of these properties have a variety of accessory structures. As you can see, a lot of them have multiple cars, a lot of them have outdoor lifestyle, so they, have a clean and tidy yard. You have a structure to, keep your stuff inside, or you have it spread all over the place. There were several other detached accessory structures built back in the day on the property that were removed. They were older, they were from the 80s, and then combined into one larger structure.
Again, try I asked this one, but give it to me again quickly if you would. So the new garage is 20 feet from east property line, 31 from north property line.
Yes, there's a building location certificate that's being provided to the city of Winnipeg, and it's like at 60 plus feet from the south property line.
Right.
So we needed no variances for yards.
Yeah.
And I believe you can the zoning officer might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. Like you can go I believe 4 feet from the property line for accessory structures. At least I know in R1. 2 feet, yeah. So you can go 2 feet from the property line. My client didn't do that. He moved it quite far over from the property line to lessen the impact on the neighbors.
No weird issues with you're on the septic field, you're on the cistern, none of that.
No, the septic field is directly south of the existing dwelling. The septic field on the neighbor's property is more aligned with the garage, but it would be over 70 to 80 feet away. And this garage is not going to be a habitable dwelling. the cistern, I can't recall the location of the cistern on the property, but I don't believe this garage is impacting that. Or anybody
Probably
else's
haven't asked
cistern.
by 12 years here about a cistern.
Oh, as you can see in some of the photos, people have larger vehicles because some of them do haul in their own water and keep larger vehicles on their properties for that purpose.
Yes, this isn't the aquifer nightmare we've dealt with many
No.
a time. Okay,
That's a South St. Hotel thing.
yes. What that? Okay, no more questions. Thank you. On we go.
Up next to speak in support of the appeal, we have Tylen Unruh. Tylen, you can come to the front. You'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name. Councillors, I will note Tylen has submitted a submission series of letters just prior to the meeting. Unfortunately, I do not have copies. Copies of some of the letters are contained in your submissions folders that have been submitted to us. Others are only contained in these files.
Okay.
If it's the will of committee, we could take a recess to make copies. Alternatively, I could just hand these.
Yeah, no, let's find hand them on.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed.
So we pass them down. Okay.
Try not to call you Tyler, Mr. Ross, but Tylan, or is it? All right. So you've got 10 minutes to speak to us. We may have some questions for you.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have something on here that wasn't submitted. I don't know if I can pass it around to show you what the pre-existing buildings look like. I don't know if that's allowed. I'm
It would need
nervous
to be
enough
submitted.
already, but I don't know if that will help or not. But anyway, there is something here that was showing the
Yeah, you can.
buildings.
It can be passed around as long as it's also sent to me.
Yeah, send it to yourself, do whatever you need. The passcode on the phone is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to stop the kids from going on it. There's nothing to hide on there, so. And just one other thing, the building that's on there isn't 70 by 80, it's 60 by 70. I don't know if that mattered or not, but it is smaller than what was noted, but.
Okay.
Am I okay to start, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and City Councilors. I'm not a public speaker and I'm nervous already, so I'm going to try to make myself as clear as I can and follow the notes I've made. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to present some background to the appeal for the variance. First, I would need to say that I've made mistakes along the way, specifically in the manner in which I have proceeded with the storage garage. Primarily, of course, I have not received a permit for such and should have gone through all the requirements and protocols. I have since found to be requirements. I do apologize for the inconvenience that this has caused. I've learned much in the past few months. I did, however, immediately stop everything when notified. I haven't as much as put doorknobs on any of the doors. I also want to state that all of the city officials, city inspectors that I have dealt with on this issue since the notice have been extremely helpful and the most courteous, considerate when reviewing the items with me on site or on the phone, taking my personal phone calls. That was definitely appreciated. I did at this time apply for a permit. Thank you. Paid the penalties and provided all the required plans, engineered, stamped drawings for the storage garage. As of late, I'm a stay-at-home dad for the time being. My wife Ayla is a nurse, and we have 3 young boys, ages 4, 6, and 8. Both my wife and myself grew up in Charleswood. Both sets of our parents still also reside very close by. My parents live on McCurry Road. Ayla's parents live on Charleswood Road. We are a very outdoors type family. We are a lot of neighbors on our Liberty Street. The relationships we have over the years living on Liberty Street have been established simply by being outside as much as we are. The friends we have made and continue to grow our relationships we cherish. The sense of community is very important to us. We have always strived to help others out, whether it's clearing snow from their driveways, helping cut grass, and even down to babysitting neighbors' kids. We value communities and supporting one another. As you can see with the distance between our homes, we still have a tight-knit community. We enjoy camping, snowmobiling, ATVing, outdoor walks, skating, and almost any other summer and winter sport. We specifically bought a large acreage for this reason. It is extremely well treed, very private, allows for almost every activity. Even though the property has a lot of trees, every year our family still plants more trees. Everything from spruce, junipers, apple trees, plum trees, and other deciduous trees. My wife and young boys also have a large garden area where they grow vegetables. I guess I'm saying most of this just to state that we love the property, as well as the association and connection with the neighborhood, which includes skating, barbecues, swimming parties, and just sometimes walks down the road and chatting with one another. We feel extremely fortunate to have friends from the area both come and support Ayla and myself here today, and also have signature support and almost everyone on the street that we were able to reach. I would like to honestly thank them very much today on selfishly taking their time out of their day to come and support us. Thank you, guys. The acres was purchased approximately 12 years ago for interest sake. It was previously owned by Dale Howardchuk. There were many outbuildings and barn all clustered together and adjoining each other to provide a very large storage space, which was the picture that I just showed you guys. Space for all the acreage equipment, snowmobiles, quads, trailers, etc. My assumption is these buildings would have been built long before Dale owned the property, but I don't know. We did, however, use all the buildings, but each year they were getting more and more unsightly with rotting roofs, walls, and floors. All the electrical was in very poor and most likely unsafe condition. We did fix and shingle a couple of the roofs, but other roofs and lean-tos were ready to fall in at any time. Thus, we decided it was just too dangerous to either use them or even have them empty due to our children and neighborhood children playing on the property. The decision was made to remove the unsightly and unsafe buildings and build much nicer, aesthetically pleasing storage garage. We did talk to the neighbors many times over barbecues, dinners, pool parties, and associated our time with them and made sure they were all on board. The only encouragement and never a word of, there was only encouragement and never a word of apprehension. It took us a few years to decide on this, and if it needed to be a family decision as whether we would have the money to spend on this. We do believe that removing the old buildings were by far the best choice. The rotting floors were a haven for mice and rodents. The new building has definitely improved the yard and the sightliness of the area. We, if allowed to keep it, we will be able to store all of our acreage items, including our tow-behind trailer at 38 feet. We all know that things are getting bigger these days, not smaller, and trailers stand at 13 feet 6 inches for you to be able to park them inside something. That's the reason why the height went to what it was for the storage facility. We would also continue to store our snowmobiles, quads, and other trailers in there, lawn tractors, and we all know kids accumulate a ton of things that would be out of sight and be neatly put away. We could also have a designated area for my wife and kids to prepare seedlings for our garden. I guess we could say it'd be another dream come true for my wife, a small greenhouse to free the space and get our living room cleaned out and be able to use it as a proper living room area. The old barn was red, so we chose the same type of color scheme. Talking with neighbors, they agreed with that. In keeping with the look of the old red barn, it does have some black accents to give it a bit more modern, contemporary feel. The garage cannot be seen from the street. It is even coming down the long driveway of over 350 feet. There is a large canopy of deciduous trees along the north side. We also would be willing to plant a row of tall spruce trees along the east side. Even though at this time there is only pasture behind and no house, I'm quite knowledgeable with landscaping and have access to large spruce trees to provide further visual enhancement if required. The Little Charleswood area we presently live in and where I grew up in, it consists of 3 roads: McCreary Road, where I grew up on, Loudon Road, and Liberty Road, where we now live. They are very similar in being extremely diverse, both in style and age of buildings, as well as the surroundings, which range from pasture land, corrals, well-kept yards, and houses right beside older large farms and old sheds. These are not city lots, they are large acreages, which also include many riding horse stables, covered arenas, large old barns, some industrial spaces, some commercial lots, and then some old farmyards with very aged buildings. These all coexist with large multi-million-dollar homes with 5 to 6 car garages perched high on top, 10 to 12 feet higher than our lot is now. It is very unique community and the nicest of what we call unsterile area you could ever hope to find. Our family would be extremely grateful if the committee would consider approving the application. It ultimately will keep us from having to store our camper and trailers and all the aforementioned items out of sight, keeping a much neater and tidier yard area. It definitely protects our investments and will be out of harsh elements and no dangers to being stolen. We just recently had, a few months ago, our enclosed trailer stolen with all family skiing, snowboarding, and sports equipment inside. The famous saying, out of sight, out of mind, hopefully will keep robbers far away. Just want to say I'm sorry for how I approached this and went about it in the wrong way. I have learned and I do know what I did wrong. And for that, we've hired John to help me to know what to do next or how to handle the next thing. Nothing we did was maliciously put out towards neighbors, and we had approvals from all of our neighbors, even if there are some that have changed their mind, which people are entitled to do. But if we took an oath and stood here, everyone would have to say that they were on board and agreed with what we were trying to do. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions?
Yes, just so just on the getting permits, why didn't you get permits?
Well, acreage living, family living, I thought pre-existing buildings didn't apply the same way as a new construction. So that was why I wanted to show you what the pre-existing buildings were. I knew that it was a new building going up, but getting permission from the neighbors, I thought stood ground. As I stated, learning a ton of what you can and can't do and what you need permits for and everything else. Sometimes living on an acreage, you think you're almost in farmland. So it was an overlook.
So the other garage that we had reference to, that's an older structure that's been there a
Yeah,
while.
that's been there for a while. It's closer to the property lines. It's a detached garage. And is on the back right side of the property if you came down it.
And just to be clear, the old house and everything has been torn down and that's taken away?
No, not the house. The old storage sheds that were there. So that had to do with the picture that I just submitted.
Okay.
Had 3 or probably 5 buildings, lean-tos and everything else off of it. And all of that measured out to be roughly between 3,000 to 3,400 square feet of what those buildings would have accumulated in space.
And the neighbors that are behind you and beside you, did you get are they supportive?
Everyone is supportive other than my neighbor to my left. That's the only gentleman, as well as the comments. I bought the house off of him, and he's here today. And we have a great relationship up until this building went up. The phone call he gave to me stated after this building went up, he pretty much told me he's going to make my life a living hell.
Well, we'll let him.
Okay. And then I shouldn't have kids or be married.
But you're left in that sentence, to west, like across.
No, so if you come down the driveway, sorry, to the left. I'm not good with directions. So
Vivian, how much
North of your property.
yeah, sorry, gonna look for my
Okay,
guidance.
we'll sort it out.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, so basically you tore down the old lean-tos and such and you replaced it with almost the same square footage, a little bit bigger, but you went upwards of 21 feet. I don't believe the old structures were anywhere near that. So you built much larger than what was on the property before that.
Yeah, so as I stated, everything's getting bigger these days that we buy. What was built there in the 80s, 70s probably would have worked for what it was. So the reason we went to the height was for the motorhome and the camper that we have. And they need a 14-foot door for you to put them in.
Correct.
So measuring at 13.6, you can't put them in on an 8-foot door. You're going to be doing a lot of construction every time you back it in.
Another question, when the company poured the pad for you, did they not question that you didn't have a permit for pouring that pad?
I was the GC and I did it all myself. I don't know if this is the mic that works or not. Sorry.
So you poured the pad yourself?
Well, I had helpers with me, but we would have been the GC and everything else on the site.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And on to the next speaker.
The next person registered to speak in support of the appeal is Isla Unruh. You'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
Morning, guys.
Morning, you've got, yes, up to 10 minutes and we may have questions for it.
Oh, this is wonderful.
So as my husband has already said, we have 3 young boys, 4, 6, and 8. Our boys live for the outdoors. Most days you'll find them outside with our neighbors' kids immediately next door, or even across the street, whether they're playing football, hockey, or jumping on the trampoline. As a family, we love the outdoors. All summer long, you can find us in the garden, around the pool, and keeping up the yard work. Even in the -30 weather, we'll find us around a bonfire or playing in the yard, whether it's the kids skiing or playing with our family dog, Bella. Living on Liberty Street is the best of both worlds. It's country living while very close to the city. We have many friends who have commented many times on how great of a property it is and how envious they are that we found such great neighbors living on such a great property. If you ask any of our friends, we have an open door policy. There are days you'll find everyone but ourselves swimming in our pool, as we always encourage people just to pop on by. Ty and I value community. Luckily for us, it's simple to engage in conversations and build relationships over the years with our immediate community. Due to the appeal, we need to talk to people about the garage. Many, of course, didn't know about it, as you can't see the garage from the street. However, when we did contact everyone in Liberty that we're able to contact, they were in support of it and signed. I do have to say, however, that one of our neighbors does oppose. Even after many evenings of never opposing or bringing their concerns to us, which looking back on it, I really wish they had. We were the best of friends and still, we were the best of friends, got together most evenings. Fortunately, though, we are still close with other family members in that household. We know we made a mistake and are paying the consequences of losing his relationship. And like Ty already mentioned, it has been a huge learning curve. We have genuinely appreciated the patience and helpfulness from all you city workers, whether it's been by email or even by phone. We never had the intention of upsetting anyone or creating more work for employees, such as yourselves. Liberty Street is where we plan to live forever. This is our forever home. We take pride in the Treaty 1 land that we reside on and hope to see our grandchildren run around in our front yard. And to touch a little more, the one neighbor opposing us was like another uncle to our boys. Every time they saw him drive by, they made it their mission for him to see them, as he always stopped and took the extra time to listen to what they had to share. He was helpful to us in many ways, even down to getting out of his Bobcat to help the boys find a specific leaf they wanted and specific color that they wanted in the grass. In the summer, we spent countless evenings hanging out with his family in the driveway and even around the pool. Some other neighbors have tried to chat with him as well in order to mend the relationship. As I indicated earlier, most families on our street work together to maintain a close sense of community and friendship. This does sadden me and our family, of course. However, we do deeply care, and we will do what we can do to try to amend this relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Doesn't look like it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, also registered to speak in support of the appeal, we have Donna Yurku. Donna, if you'd like to come forward, you'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
I am just here in support of my daughter and son-in-law. I have nothing anymore to add. I'm just here for support.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. You live somewhere, got your address though, right? You're on the
Yeah.
Prairie or? Okay, Charleston Road, the other ones.
Also in support of the appeal, we have Theodore Michalchuk. Apologize if I mispronounced that.
No problem.
Theodore, if you'd like to approach, you'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
Theodore McCullough. I'm a friend of the family, also an electrician as a contractor. So was kind of overseeing with Ty and stuff like this, and also was not totally clear on like the issue of permits and stuff like that. Usually you always hear stories like replacing structures with a structure. Used to be a gray area, not so much now. The other clarification, there is no pad poured for his garage. It's a gravel floor or whatever. They just did a footing around, so there isn't pad done. Yeah, just here to support him. That's it.
Thank you.
Up next in support of the appeal is Harley Unruh.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I was not prepared to speak, not at all. So gonna ad-lib it and try to say a few things. I guess I'm surprised we're here, not possibly not due to the variance. Of course, I understand that, but a lot of you don't know there's one. It's just very difficult to talk about. There's one family member, one neighbor that does oppose it. And to be very truthful, Darren was like a father to Ty. In fact, if I would tell him how to plant a tree, I think I know quite a bit about landscaping. Ty would not listen to me. It would be Darren he would go to. Darren was the answer for everything. They had an extremely close.
I think, Mr. Chair, we should really stick to the facts of the matter and not.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think we're getting a sense of it anyway, but
So if we
the objecting party can register and speak or not, that would be their choice.
yeah, I just want to say that, it's
And to clarify, Mr. Chair, the appeal is to the director.
Right, the appellant.
Nobody in the community has appealed it. It's the director, the public administration that has denied.
Hence my use of the term objecting party rather than.
Okay, just
Yes.
to clarify.
so back to the matter at hand then. Ty and Ayla have, I believe, over 80 signatures, and I don't believe there was anyone on their street that was opposed to it whatsoever, with the exception of one neighbor. So they have terrific support in the area, and specifically on the street. The other thing that I don't know was, it was mentioned, I'm not sure how clear everyone is on it, and it's very difficult to see this from there. But there was one barn and a lean-to, two other lean-tos, and two garages, all connected to the older buildings that they had referred to. All these buildings were GPSed at about 3,200 square feet, encompassing all that area. And they tried fixing them. They tried repairing the roofs. They tried repairing some walls. It was just too much to tackle. And every year they got worse, they deteriorated, and they were unsafe, and there were roofs falling in. And finally I said, you can't have kids playing around here. So they did, over a couple of years, decide to build the structure. The structure is inside a canopy of trees. Is very, very well nestled in behind there. You cannot see it from the road. And when even in wintertime, it's very difficult to see, but just the deciduous trees without leaves, they hide it very well. But also, Ty had mentioned, I heard him say that he's also willing to plant another bank of trees. There are another row of trees, tall spruce trees, if that would be of any help as well. I did, when I heard about the problem with the one neighbor, I said, that's not a problem, Ty. I'll meet with Darren and we'll get this settled in 10 minutes. So I did have a meeting with him, and it did not go well. In fact, I had offered to I'll paint the building if it's the color you don't like, but we'll put as many trees as around it as we need. Initially, when Ty planned the building, they were so close that Darren doesn't have a structure for his landscaping equipment right beside the shed. So Ty said, "Well, Darren, I'm just going to build a door in here, and you use it." That was the relationship. So I said to Darren, "You know, you can even have access to it." He said, "No, it's coming down. It's got to come down. It's got to come down." And there's not a member of my family that'll set foot in the property. And then the next day, he egg-lined a fence up. So we will do anything in terms of trying to rectify and make it more palatable. But it is, you really can't, in summertime, you won't be able to see any of it, period. It'll just be that well hidden. In wintertime, there's, you might see glimpses of it, but it's not obtrusive whatsoever. And if he doesn't have that, he's taken down the 3,200 square feet of old buildings. There's nothing anymore then. So, I guess that's just kind of what I wanted to get across. This is a replacement for the existing buildings, and if he doesn't have this, there is nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there are any questions, so on we go.
Also registered in support of the appeal. I apologize in advance. Jay, I can't read the last name there. Is that you? What? Perfect.
Yeah, everything I wanted to say has been said.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that concludes those I had pre-registered to speak in support of the appeal. As we do have some in the gallery, I just want to confirm, is there anyone else here to speak in support of the appeal? Okay. Do I have your?
I'm Matt Graham.
Matt Graham. Okay.
I wrote a letter.
Welcome. We've got up to 10 minutes to speak to us, and we may have some questions for you.
No problem. My name is Matt Graham. I'm in support of it. For two reasons. I know the property. I've resided at two residences nearby in the last couple of years. I also know the UNRWAs to not have a malicious pull in their body. They didn't do it to harm the community. In fact, they thought they had a lot of the support. The buildings that they did tear down were rather unsafe. They were also red, which I believe is kind of part of the issue. So they replaced it with a similar theme, maybe not the same size. But that's my next topic. I recently built a building. I went through the process, and I was led to believe that 832, I believe, was the max that I could build, even though I pulled dual variances. So the combined structure,
Sorry, even though you give me that sentence again.
So when I bought the property that I currently live on, there was a large shed. I wanted to keep the shed, but I also wanted to build a large garage for similar reasons to Todd and Ale. As I went through the process, the maximum build I thought I could build of an actual building was 832. That's what I was led to believe. That is actually the size that I built. I later found out that even after jumping through all the hoops, waivers, dual variances for height, size, it was actually, I could have built, well, I don't know about any size, but I could have built a larger structure. And I live in the city of Winnipeg. I didn't realize that the dual variance why I was pulling was simply just to go over square footage of the actual allowed detached structures on the property. So I had a 12 by 24 shed, and I have a 26 by 32 detached garage. I did not know that the 26 by 32 could have been bigger. That's what I was led to believe. It is slightly confusing. Does anybody have questions? Because is it odd that the opposing party hasn't asked any questions? Like if the,
No.
Okay.
And we will hear from those who oppose the appeal. Obviously, the admin didn't approve the request. It had nothing to do with the color. So we'll cross that bridge if indeed we need to cross it.
So when you say led to be believed by who?
I guess the way I read the paperwork, the people I spoke to at the office, the permits, everything mentions a maximum size allowance. It doesn't necessarily talk about, or maybe I didn't read 110% of it. I hired a company to do it. Everywhere it says that there's a building limit. It doesn't necessarily discuss about what the options are if you did jump through all the process. Like I went through all the process. It took at least 6 months, which is fine. But to find it out after the fact is not very comforting.
Councilor Dobson.
Yes, okay, so you built according to what the rule said, and if you wanted to build bigger, you would have had to apply for a variance, and you may not have been approved for the larger size. There's no guarantee.
No, I did the process.
Okay,
I approved for both.
I know, but if you were to build bigger, it's not necessarily that you would have won that case. It's just that you're trying. If you wanted to build a much larger garage than the 832 square feet, you not necessarily would have been approved for that, but you could have tried. It's an option.
I was approved for, I believe, 1,400 because I was allowed to keep the other building. Like when you go through the process, they combine your detached structure allowance, which is what the 4,900 is, right?
Right.
So when I approved, actually, none of my neighbors that signed the dual variance really questioned too much about that. But the allowable amount that I was after was like 1,440, I believe. They all signed. So I was granted to do bigger. Correct. If I had written 2,000, would some of the neighbors have disagreed? Possibly.
Or would have the city said no as well? They could have denied the larger amount.
Of course, like we live in the city. There is those limits. I agree. Just I'm speaking towards the idea of the process as a homeowner, going through it, pulling the variances myself.
Confusing.
I did not necessarily understand, and nor did actually any of my neighbors that I talked to, that the 1,440 limit that I was talking about was actually a total detached structure allowance, not just for a singular building.
But for the combined, all of
for the combined.
Yeah.
And actually, when I asked my neighbors, they actually didn't even know that I built the garage in kind of the same scenario after the fact. But it was behind my house. It matched my house. Everything about it. I was lucky enough, I don't know, I'd say to do it differently. But I found out after that of course, pending a lot of approval, I could have gone bigger, even though I jumped through all the steps. It does seem like there is a limit, even with all the steps. Does that make sense?
Yes, it actually does.
Like it, yeah. Asking for the 1,440, I believe was the magic number. And then having all my neighbors sign it without necessarily questioning. Having approval and then finding out after that, I thought an individual building could not be more than 832, I believe is the number. Not necessarily combined, because once you combine, it gets a little confusing. And that's kind of what's happening here. It's like the actual structure is significant, is a size, but things are getting bigger. And like
mathematically, that's fair.
Well, and I know, I also had an insurance claim recently that took over 2 years to settle. It's still in court for things. I know the owner are going through that stuff.
Okay, I don't think that's, yeah.
Well, it's stuff that would have been in that, would be in that garage. It would have been kept safe.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, we're good now.
You've been great.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else here to speak in support of the appeal?
Yeah, I'll speak. Real quick.
And sorry, what was your name?
John Mark Wilderspin, Realtor for 17 years next month. Just wanted to speak to the value.
Do we have your side in there?
Yeah, I had the letter in there as well.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Oh,
You can do that after, just.
okay.
And do you live nearby?
Yeah, I'm on Wexford, just a few minutes north.
Okay.
So, selling real estate Winnipeg for 17 years, we do see things that's like, look at a line, look at a place. And sometimes that may be a fence that's too tall or a triplex with no full stations. If I was showing this place to a buyer, I wouldn't be like, wow, that building is way too big for this size of lot. Refer back to the first presentation, the football field, it wouldn't stand out of place. It wouldn't take the value down for many neighbors because it's a little speck from the whole grand view. There's animals walking around the back in the barn, so there's a farm area there. So just speaking to that it wouldn't stand out from not be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else here to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, we can move on to those in opposition. First up, we will hear from Keith Jordan. Keith, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make the presentation after you state your name.
I promise you I won't take that long. But my name is Keith Jordan. I'm at 1315 Liberty Street. I'm one of the pictures that John was nice enough to use for his presentation. And there was a couple items I'd like to comment on that I heard this morning. First of all, that all the neighbors were approached about this construction. Well, I am 2 neighbors down on the north side. I never knew about it until it started to go up. So the comment that the neighbors were approached and they all agreed, but it's absolutely not true. Because I'm one of them that was not approached at all. So we built our house in 2019, 2020, and we followed all the permits. We followed all the rules. We didn't just decide to build things on our own without following permits. We are in the process of building our patio in the back. We are going to look squarely at this, quite honestly, ugly, red, tall structure that was not there before. It just does not fit in with the area. As you saw, a lot of those pictures are very high-end homes that are being built now. It just does not seem compatible with that kind of area now. I'm part of an organization that builds residential apartment blocks. We always follow the rules. There are permits there and applications and variances for a reason. If we all decide to start building without permits, without applications and that, then I might as well just build whatever I want in my backyard if this gets to go ahead as requested. So those are my comments. Just there's rules there for a reason. There's a process there for a reason, and we should all be made to apply to it. So, comments, questions?
So you are not adjacent to the north, you're two away. You're one beyond that.
I'm one away.
And so I don't know how wide, 1375 appears to be 186 wide, and then, and is it the neighbor that's in between the two of you is 200 wide, 50 wide?
Something like that, probably, yes. So this building is clearly in my view.
But roughly 200 feet away?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Does color matter?
Well, it's bright red. So it's
I missed that, I get that.
So there's nothing red in the background otherwise. So whether it's green out there with trees or brown in the winter time, it stands out.
Okay. But I mean, somebody alluded to, well, this is an issue. Is that
Well, it's part of the issue for sure.
Okay.
But not the issue.
Okay, fair comment. Fair. And obviously that isn't the city's dilemma with it.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay.
So, just on that, because we've got some decisions to make here today, and I mean, taking down a building that's already built, that's a consequence, but it's a big decision for us to make. Is there anything that because we're in the situation now, is there anything that we could do, like, could ask them to do, whether it's more trees, so it would stop that sight line that you maybe could maybe potentially see as something?
Good question.
So certainly trees helps the situation, but I don't think that helps what the initial problem is. That we can't just go along and build property to build buildings without permits and applications. That's what they're there for. Now that it's up, do I think it should stay there? No, I don't think it should stay there. It should be amended to fit into the rules and regulations for the area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Up next to speak in opposition to the appeal, we have, and I apologize in advance, Darren Van Winsberg. Darren, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Good morning, my name is Darren Van Winsberg, and I live at 1345 Liberty Street.
Are you adjacent then, or you're?
Yes, I'm the property to the north side. Yes. So I've been in the area for about 34 years now. I used to live at 1375, so I was the one who purchased it from Dale Howard Chuck when he moved on from the Jets. And I lived there for 22 years, sold it to Mr. the Unruh family. And then we built our new house next door to that one, which is located at 1345. This new structure is approximately 5.5 times the size and almost twice, 2 times the size and height in the area. I have over 30 windows in the back of my house that look onto this huge red building. We have a raised bungalow, so we have 4-foot windows in the basement. There's over 30 windows that look onto this structure. My backyard before was like a park before the structure was built. Now it's like an industrial park. Since the structure has been built, it has taken away a lot of my enjoyment from my property. And it's also created a lot of stress for me and my family. My property values both on Liberty at 1345 and on Loudon Street, because I have the 4.7 acres behind there, has been drastically reduced. If this were to stay in place, it sets a very bad precedent for the area and the rest of Winnipeg regarding future builds. I'm just going to address a few of the other things that came up prior to me speaking. So they're saying to plant more trees. Best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Because it takes 20 years for them to be mature, where we would get them to the proper height. This garage can be seen from Loudon. It can be seen from Liberty. There's going to be a picture that comes up from when you pull in my driveway. It can clearly be seen. So they've taken strategic pictures, especially of Loudon. It stands out. I believe the planning department has one from Loudon that I did see, and where that one really shows how it stands out. The older buildings that were there prior to, they might have been to the peak, maybe 10 to 13 feet in height, maybe to the peak, right to the peak. This one here is close to 30 to the peak. And as far as so that's about it. So I'm very familiar with the property as I lived there for many years prior to building my new house. The old buildings that were there, the square footage, I do have, ballpark numbers of those. Those numbers are more in line with the 1,700 square feet. There was a lot of basically canopies that came off of those older existing buildings from back in the day. So they were not fully enclosed. So the enclosed buildings would have 4 walls and a roof on them. a lot of that square footage that's been calculated is just a canopy, maybe with a couple of sides on it. It was open on one side all the time. That's all I have to say for now. Anybody have questions?
So when did you understand that this was being built? After it was built, during it was built?
They built it they built it on the ground, stood it up, like basically it didn't take long. That was their whole plan. They're going to build it so quick that the city would never make them take it down. That's the reason why people should be taking permits. It was built fast.
It was built fast.
They built it all on the ground, stood it up with cranes.
Okay, so it was done rather quickly. Did you know about that it was gonna be put in?
There was conversation about that. Nobody ever thought it would be this big and red. Like, it's massive. You'll see on the picture slides when Bruce comes up.
Okay, so you had an inkling that something was gonna be built there. You just didn't know the height or the color or any of the.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked the gentleman, because depending on where the councilors go with this, the building could stay or could be taken down, depending on where we go. But I will ask you if you would like to see, if the building were to stay, would you like to see trees planted or color change? What would be your request?
I would definitely prefer that the color be changed. The red stands out and it looks horrible. As far as for trees, it's way over height and oversized for the area. Like, it's like close to 5,000 square feet total. And the city typically allows 860, maybe, for what there is allotted. They might let it go up to like 1,600 when I spoke with Donna. As far as for putting in trees, like, these trees, even if you put I'm in the landscaping business, like, even if we put poplars in there, well, you're not getting the green year round. So if we put spruce trees in, it would take forever. It could take 20 years. I planted a lot of trees there. I've got hundreds of trees on my property, but there's going to be some pictures that are shown from the back of my house. Like, there's 30 windows that we have more than 30 because the whole back of the house is basically floor to ceiling glass. And no matter where we look out, we see this big, massive structure.
But I mean, you owned the garage that's on there now. Was that on it when not the new one, the other one? Was that on there when you owned the property?
That's correct. Yes, I built that one.
Okay, and do we know how big that is?
24 by 26 feet.
500-ish square feet. So this one is 4,200-ish square feet.
Are we talking about, there's two different garages?
Yes, smaller, older, built pre-UNRWA era, and then this one, the one we're here for, is. I mean, I guess. Well, I want to thank Councilor Gilroy for a question, because I mean, if we could make them, I think we could legally make them take it down, but then couldn't they just build something bright pink, chartreuse, whatever color he wants, if they want, they're 12/9, like they have the right to, as soon as they got a permit, they could put in a building there of it, any color they want, frankly, admittedly a substantially smaller building.
It's the size. It is just so massive. You'll see in the pictures coming up with the other detached garage, the older one, the 24 by 26, looks like a little pimple coming out of the ground type of thing compared to this massive structure.
Okay.
It's created a lot of hardship for my family also. A lot.
Okay, I don't think there are any further questions. Thank you.
Okay, up next, we'll have Bruce King to speak in opposition to the appeal.
There's also a USD versus presentation.
Okay, I will need a copy of that as well.
It was submitted.
It was submitted, perfect. Very much.
Okay, I will advance this, will I? Yeah. You will show me which button I push?
Yeah, I will get it shared so that everyone remote can see.
I knew I had to operate, so I brought my daughter to help me. Actually, just that's.
I do that a lot too.
I just want to close the others.
Take photo, we saw it.
Side.
I think you just, here, I'll use the screen.
Arrows.
Yeah, scroll down.
So scroll on left side. Or
Just scroll downwards.
scroll down, thank you. There we go. I hope the technology instruction doesn't count into my 10 minutes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So.
Meetings would be a lot shorter if it did. I'm speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Bruce King. I'm the lawyer for Darren Van Winsberg, the owner of 1345 Liberty. As has been noted earlier, this is an appeal of the decision of the director. So the director rejected a requested variance and then it's been appealed by the applicant. On behalf of my client, we submit that the decision of the director was correct and appropriate, and we completely support the recommendations contained in the administrative report that you have before you. We encourage you to reject this appeal. The applicant is asking to vary the RR5 Airport Vicinity Protection Area development and design standards to permit the maintenance of a building. This building is 70 by 60. By my math, that's around 4,200 square feet. Added to the existing building of around 700 square feet to maintain a total of 4,900 square feet. Again, what's really relevant is the building, the 60 by 70 square foot, 60 by 70 foot building. A building that has a height of, apparently is debatable, 23 feet. Where 13 feet is in fact allowed. So it's 10 feet higher than the standard. So the applicant wants to be able to maintain this commercially sized building that he's constructed without a permit. The request is opposed not just by my client, by one neighbor, by most of the immediate neighbors. Here's the neighborhood. The subject property, is it up there? Subject property is pink.
Right.
And a nice red square at the back, roughly where the offending structure is located. Mr. Van Winsberg owns the property to the north, 1345. Mr. Winsberg also owns the property behind, I don't know, looks like about 5 or 6 acres of vacant land, has a couple of horses on it right now. You've heard from Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan has the purple property further to the north. The other properties identified here, and we have the names. All of these individuals have also filed letters in opposition. I've spoken to several of them. I've spoken specifically to Larry Rempel, and I've spoken to Tyler Gomp. So Tyler Gomp bought this property to build a house on. The Rempels are here and have been there for years. These other individual properties have also filed letters in opposition. So there's not just one person in opposition of the maintenance of this structure. Frankly, all but the immediate neighbor to the south are in opposition and have filed letters or spoken to you today. These are the parties that are most directly affected by this structure. I know that the applicant has filed many neighbors, their letters of support. Clearly, they're wonderful people and have a wonderful relationship with many other people in the immediate area, including people across the street. And so good on them that their neighbors are supporting them, but has been made really, really clear by the presentation on behalf of the applicant. The neighbors across the street on Liberty who may have filed letters in support, they can't see this building. This building's at the back of the property. So wonderful that they're supporting the neighbors. And again, UNRWA seem like really nice people. This is a picture of my client's property at 1345. And again, we've seen many other pictures by the applicant's planner. And this is just typical of the homes that are located on this street and in this neighborhood. This is a rural residential neighborhood that's become, frankly, one of the desired areas
St. Battelle may be as desirable. But one of the desired areas for large lot construction of beautiful homes with thoughtfully landscaped yards. I've heard of this area described as the Wellington Crescent of Charleswood now. With the next 4 slides, you'll see pictures of the structure. Here's the structure viewed from my client's side yard. Here's the structure, also again, viewed from my client's side yard. You can see my client's house, one of the pictures. Here's the view of the structure from my client's master bedroom. So when he gets up to enjoy the wonderful park-like scenery that he's built, this is what he'll be looking at. If he goes into his sunroom, the view doesn't improve very much. This is a view of the structure from my client's property to the east, the Loudon Road property, the vacant property that presumably someday he may choose to develop and sell when he started feeding his horses. Another view from the Loudon Road property. So this is immediately behind the structure. And this is one heck of a big commercially sized structure that you're looking at.
Well, you keep saying commercially sized, but there's no evidence it's being used for anything commercial.
That's absolutely correct. So I'm talking about the size and characterizing the structure as opposed to what may happen inside this now or in the future. I submit that the applicant obviously wouldn't have been granted a permit for this specific structure. The applicant should have followed the process outlined by his planner of applying for a variance, presumably doing some neighborhood consultation, getting support of the neighbors of the specific structure that was planned to be constructed, and then, in fact, proceeding with the variance prior to construction. These individuals sound like an absolutely wonderful family and wonderful people and have built good, strong relationships with their neighbors. One would be inclined to be sympathetic with them because they're such wonderful people, but you know that's not the determining factor for you today. There's been some questionable what should happen. Again, my suggestion is that once this appeal's denied, if that is your decision, that the applicant come up with some revised plans, consult with the neighbors on those plans, and then come back for a new variance, or I guess approach the city, not to this committee, but to the city for a variance for a structure that's more appropriate. You know, councillors, that there's 4 criteria that need to be met to allow a variance under the City of Winnipeg Act. I would submit that none of those 4 criteria are met in this instance. First criteria, the variance should be consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan. It's noted by the development planning officer that this is inconsistent, but they would know best. Number 2 factor, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining properties. Well, I would submit that the enjoyment of surrounding properties has decreased significantly. And your appreciation of your property, that's a subjective factor. And we've heard from 2 individuals, the most immediately affected to the north and also further north. And from their perspective, they feel that their properties have in fact been substantially adversely affected. My client explained that his backyard was like a park. Now he feels like he's in an industrial park. My client has indicated that he anticipates depreciation in surrounding property values. My client's going to be directly affected by that, not just by his property. He owns the land behind, the vacant land that, again, when he's done having horses there, maybe he'll come back to the city and ask for whatever permissions he needs and sells that property. He's going to be affected by that when the people he's selling to are looking at the back of an industrially or commercially sized building.
But you haven't put in any evidence
that it's a commercially sized building?
No, a reduction in property value. I mean, he stated it as fact, you're much more eloquently saying he anticipates objective, so, yeah, it is.
Thank you for the adjective.
That's.
And again, while we've clearly heard that these current owners have no intention to use it for commercial purposes, properties sell in the future. If I were an individual in the future buying a property with a building of this magnitude, who's to say what a future owner might do if it's allowed to remain? Number three, so we're just at number two of the factors that must be fulfilled. Number three, this committee must find that it's the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of this zoning bylaw that doesn't allow big enough garages. Again, it's noted by the development planning officer, the city's experts, to not be within the minimum modification. They report that other neighborhood properties have obtained variances for between 1,200 and 1,800 square feet. So I would submit that would be the minimum variance to relieve the injurious effect of this bylaw. Finally, number four, and this is the key element, is compatible with the area in which the property.
Hold on there, Mr. King. Councilor Santos is going to move an extension of 2 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Councilor Santos. And I'll be less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
Is compatible within the area in which the property is situated. So again, a building of this size is inconsistent with the nature of the area. This is a serene residential area. People are moving there and building wonderful houses because of the environment. We've seen examples of some older structures, some grandfathered structures that existed previously when this was in an agricultural area. We've seen some big houses with big garages, triple car in some cases. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about an accessory. This is not compatible with the area as the area has evolved. In summary, we ask that you deny this appeal. By doing so, you'll make it clear to the applicant and others who may be tempted to follow this lead that you're not exempt from compliance with city permit and building process. There are rules for a reason. You need people to follow those rules. The applicant wanted some leeway and will need some leeway, presumably for future plans. And if you respect your neighbors, you consult with them and you apply for a variance in advance with their support. Applicant unfortunately chose not to do so. For the sake of the neighborhood, for the sake of your rules, we encourage you to deny this appeal.
Can you talk to me a bit about, sorry, one is tempted to point out context here. You heard Mr. Winter, there's no city water, there's no city sewer. These people aren't paying frontage levy because there's no city water or sewer. We only, this budget repealed the $250 each household get for minimum municipal services. For a couple of decades, each of these homeowners would have been getting a $250 rebate because of minimum municipal services. So I appreciate we're in the city. We are clearly within the city here, but it is more of a rural feel to it. But you had said, yeah, but it breaches the secondary plan. I mean, the context would seem to be big lots, big open spaces, more rural than city feel to it. But how are you saying it breaches the secondary plan?
I'm relying on the expert, the city officials, and my reading of their report, where that's stated in their report. I'm not a planner by profession. I can tell you though that again, and you know, thank you to the expert planner hired by the applicant who showed the nature of the neighborhood as it's evolving. These are large lot residential buildings that are being constructed. If the city council thinks it's appropriate to allow larger accessory structures in this neighborhood, they can do so by changing the bylaw or by allowing a variance. Variance, we've heard, is in the range of 1,200 to 1,800 square feet. So again, that's the history. That's what the planners are recommending now. I, in this instance, completely support the planner's recommendations.
I think you've made some of the points. I mean, there are rules, but there are also variances, and there's also a right of appeal to those variances. So if they're denied, so that's what brings us here. Man, I wish the Glenwood Neighborhood Association was here to hear someone say there are rules, they should be followed, they're there for a reason. 140 straight variances granted for Dobson's probably catching up on me in his ward. Bylaw says 3,500 square feet to build. You got 2,500. Good enough. It's 2/3 of what you need. Go ahead and build. And then they come here and they lose 90% of the time. So if the rules are to be followed, then history would have been a lot different in some wards. I'll say that. So
I
there's
think
a
you're speaking in favor of my submission, Mr. Chair, that there are rules. You're the ones that are faced. And that sounds like this is the last instance in the cycle. So congratulations to you. After you make the right decision today, you get a year off.
One's tempted to make a Liberty joke, but I will. In any event,
You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, not bad. Councilor Klein was very fond of that. All right, if there are no further questions, thank you for the presentation as always, very thorough, and on we go.
So that concludes those who pre-registered to speak in opposition to the appeal. As we do have some folks in the gallery, just to confirm, is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to the appeal? Seeing none, I'll just state that no one had pre-registered for information. Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak for information on the appeal? Seeing none, we can move on to questions for the administration.
Yeah. Just
Yep, go ahead.
clarity. Okay, so, the 4,900 square feet accessory, is that including the residential home as well?
Only the two accessory structures that are present.
Okay, so then the 880 square feet, that's for accessories only.
Correct.
Okay, and then if he were to vary the accessory structure, he can vary it by up to 1,600 square feet is what I'm
We're
hearing.
normally supportive, but about 1,600 at the most.
Okay. Okay, and then the height, 13. What is the height allowed to vary on the height?
We would have supported 16 feet at
16
mid-peak. So yeah, and these measurements are always at mid-peak. They're not at peak.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the decision making, so if we were to allow it in part, what kind of could we request the planting of more trees, the changing of color? What would we be allowed to do?
The color of the structure, unfortunately, is not up for debate. That's a personal choice.
Okay.
And there's nothing in the bylaw that regulates that. There was plan approval and there is not.
Okay.
What would have been supportable would have been a 1,300 to 1,400 square foot structure. Probably 16 to 17 feet at mid-peak, taking into account the existing 24 by 26 structure that's also on the site. So if they reduce the size and the height of the structure, it could be maintained.
And if council were to grant the appeal, and we wanted to put, because it's unfortunate that we don't have the ability to put financial sanctions on these. Like, it's unfortunate because, you know, it is right that people need to get permits and we need to enforce that. But on the other end, tearing down, like, we've got to make the decision whether to tear down and add to the destruction of our environment and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, can we put in there that we enforce planting of trees or anything in there?
You can definitely add that, yes. If you want trees or landscaping done, that can be added to the order.
Question, sorry.
Sure, Councilor Santos.
If it was a garage that they were applying for, does that still fall within the quote accessory structure?
Yeah, accessory structures include anything not attached to the house, a shed, a gazebo, a greenhouse, whatever you want to call it, as long as it's not attached.
Councilor Dobson, then I had a question.
Okay, well, if it was attached to the house, then of course they'd have to get a building permit for that. I understood that they were issued penalties for building without a building permit. Is that correct?
Yes, they
Any idea the amount?
No, we don't. We're not with the enforcement, unfortunately. That's the enforcement portion of
Okay,
P and deal with that.
I'm good for now. Go for it.
I appreciate it that it's an accessory structure. I mean, the height limit for houses here would be, it's gotta be at least 35. I mean, we're way outside the infill guide, so it's gotta be at least 35.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Feet, yeah. Are there, I don't think it's been asked, are there any other variances granted for accessory structures nearby? Liberty Loudon,
Yeah.
did we touch on that? They're probably in the.
It's in the administrative report.
14 high, the 1,800 square foot house.
Yes.
I have three previous orders that I was able to find at 1460, 1470, and 1480 Liberty, which allow detached structures having floor areas between 1,207 square feet and 1,824 square feet, with building heights between 15.8 feet and 19 feet.
Sorry, the size again, I got the height, the size was,
Was between 1,207 square feet and 1,824 square feet.
I think I saw the one with the floor. Yes. You gave precedences from other ones here. Oh, I see it here, page 7. Okay.
no variances were required for the side yard, front yard, backyard.
No, I didn't find any setback variances, just height and area.
Color, as you said, not on the table here, okay. But landscaping is a question, but that's it. Okay, any further questions for admin? We got rid of rebuttal here, I'm getting flipped around.
So it's the appellant who would have the opportunity to rebut. However, they have indicated that John Winthrop will be taking the rebuttal portion on their behalf.
Yeah, okay. Okay, if there are no further questions for admin, we're good now.
Can they both can rebut or just one?
Just one,
Just one can rebut?
just the appellant,
Yeah,
but
the city that.
John Winthrop will be.
He's gonna sit next to me, but he won't talk to the committee. That's okay, so I might have to ask him a question. Well, first, thank you for your patience this morning. I'd like to thank everyone who came out here, either for or against the item. I will address comments that were made. First, I'll start off. I'm a professional planner. That was mentioned. I have I'm registered in Canada, registered professional in Canada, certified in the States. I also am accredited with the Congress in Urbanism and LEED. So I'm a professional planner here giving an opinion on this matter, and I'm following the American Association Code of Ethics of being impartial and providing a professional opinion. The first gentleman who came out with speak, who was 2 doors down, speaking about this neighborhood, 2 doors down is, I measured on Google Earth, is about 500 feet away. The second neighbor who came out, Darren, who seems a very nice gentleman, he's approximately 300 feet away. And when I heard him speak, he talked about the impact and how enjoyment of his property has been perhaps affected by this matter. I want to point out, you can look at the air photographs as well as the photographs I submitted, and he declared that he runs a landscape business. And you can see in his yard directly adjacent to this garage, a dump truck, a single axle dump truck, C-bins, other outdoor items, other, I'd say, equipment associated with a landscape business is in his yard. I would say that would look a lot more commercial than a garage. Perhaps one day he might look at having a garage to store his dump truck and etc. He didn't quite mention that. Some of the neighbors that signed letters of support, are also showing up as letters in opposition. You can look at the forms and look, and there's names, neighbors who signed both. When you have a neighbor come next to you and come up to you and ask, and I've been in that situation, will you sign this for me? A lot of people just don't want to be offended. So I remember one former city councilor who said, I'm with the people, I'm with my friends. Some of them are against us and some of them are for it, but I'm with all my friends.
That's not unique to whoever said that on Winnipeg City Council.
I know who said that, and I think you do too. So some people have signed both forms. I understand that situation. You don't want to upset your neighbors. Nobody here wants to upset the neighbors. My client, I don't believe Darren is looking to upset his neighbors as well. I think he has some concerns. I think this is a piece of property that was owned by a beloved figure in Winnipeg a few years ago. And then Darren owned it, and perhaps there's some changes happening to the property that are not changes that he'd like to see or felt maybe might be going in a different direction than he would have wanted with the property when he owned it. But some changes have happened there. If you had just seen some plans, a lot of people see plans and they're okay with it. We have the fortunate or unfortunate position of, well, that structure actually got constructed, and now you actually can see what the impact could have on people's view of it. So I'm going to talk briefly about, you are very familiar with the 4 points of criteria. If you look under the first point for approving these things, Plan Winnipeg and the secondary plan, detached accessory structures are not addressed in either. That's not what the development plan is for the secondary plan. They're not here to govern and regulate, detached accessory structures. So it's for, if it was against those items, this application would have been refused without a public hearing. It would have proceeded. The secondary plan, as Councillor Mays pointed out, is to encourage, and it's been around for quite some while. Bill Clement championed it through. It was to allow large lots development with a rural flavor, ditch drainage, paved roads, but very limited services. So that's why you have, since that time, a number of new houses have gone up with some existing farmyards. I pointed out some variances that have been approved. I only pointed out, as well as the staff did, variances that have been approved in the area for the last couple of years, going back 6 to 8 years. I recall a number of variances being issued prior to that from 2000 to 2010 for large structures. I pointed out several pictures to you showing the number of large structures and large houses. Interesting enough, if you attach this garage to your house, you would be okay. But if you're detached, you need variances. A lot of people are attaching their garages to their houses for 3-4 car garages, etc. But when it's detached, you need a variance. You heard the planning staff indicate about the zoning bylaw that they have a policy. They are actually acknowledging that the restriction of 880 square feet in the height doesn't fit this area. So they have not a council policy, not a policy in Plan Winnipeg, not a regulation of the zoning bylaw, but they've been providing variances and alleviating the situation in acknowledgement that these are large lots that are getting larger buildings on them over time and have been for a number of years going back. So that is, I would say, a deficiency in the zoning bylaw. So even the staff that recognize that the zoning bylaw of 880 square feet doesn't fit this area. They have a rule of thumb they've been following to alleviate it for providing a larger structure, but it's a rule of thumb. It's not a policy of council. It's not a policy in the secondary plan. It's not a policy that is formally adopted. It's just been over time passed between staff members. Okay, we're okay with this comfortable level. My client came forward when he was pointed out that he had constructed something without a concrete base. It's just footings. He put up a prefabricated building. He went with red because of the red barns, trying to maintain a characteristic of the area. He did consult with the neighbors. The building went up. He did pay fines and fees and enforcement to the city of Winnipeg and has cooperated. He could have easily told the city to go away, come back with a court order. He didn't. He's been cooperating all along. He could have built the building as close as 2 feet from the property line, 13 feet tall. I would say that was a bigger impact than being located where it is, several feet from the property line, because he is considerate to his neighbor to the north and as well as to the neighbor to the east. He did take that consideration. If there needs to be some concessions made here, my client has told me he's more than happy. If the building color needs to change, he'll change the color of the building. If you like the removal of the older existing garage on the property to reduce the variance, he will do that. He will hire a landscape architect. He will even consult with Darren, who is a self-declared landscaper running a landscape business, to consider planting more trees to shelter the garage structure and the yard, to increase the privacy, to ensure that people who are looking at it won't be as offended by the look of a building. I will point out to you though, for my client's property, he looks out onto, again, a dump truck, some seed bins, some other lean-to buildings. He can look across Loudon Road and see houses of large buildings, 12 to 13 feet taller, that are blue, that are orange. Some of them are, beauties in the eye of the beholder. Some of the structures, I've shown you pictures. I wouldn't say look characteristic to the neighborhood, but they've been approved and constructed. So from his property, yes, he can also see houses as well, and roofs and buildings that are different colors. So I would argue being able to see something doesn't necessarily impact your quality of your life and enjoyment of your property. But we will be happily looking to screen that property with any kind of landscaping. Let me just ask my client. I pointed out several pictures on his property, and you can look at Google Earth. The property is completely almost surrounded by trees. He will happily plant more trees to provide whatever visual impact is affected by the neighbors. He will again consult with the neighbors in doing that. He will hire a landscape architect for advice. We will look at planting fast growing trees, whether they're deciduous, coniferous, a variety of trees. But as you can see on this property, it is quite large. It is the size of a football field. We are not covering that football field with a building. I'm used to coming here and talking about 0.5 foot wide lots that are covered with, 40% lot coverage, and the neighbor is 4 feet away. That's the impact, and we are somehow making that work. Having a garage and being over 500 feet away, the garage is 20 feet tall, not 23. That is not a 2-story house. That is, again, we're looking at a smaller structure than what we're dealing with in other parts of Winnipeg, where we're dealing with 35 foot tall houses, 4 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet from the property line, covering 40% of the lot. This is covering all the structures, 8.5% of the lot. So we have sufficient space to landscape it. We will remove the other existing structure to reduce the amount of accessory structures on the property, and we will landscape wherever we can to block the view, to ensure the garage is blocked from people's views throughout the entire year, not just during the summer and fall. I'm open to any kind of questions that you might have.
Who put side yard, you're saying, is the standard accessory building?
You're allowed to have a 2 foot minimum side yard with a maximum 1 foot overhang, and in the rear yard are 2 feet with a maximum 1 foot overhang. And you can be 13 feet tall.
I think that was on one of the slides.
Yeah, so he could have built this building 2 feet from the property line, 13 feet up, and required nothing.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You talked about the Wilkes South secondary plan and the PDO. You had mentioned that it only speaks to the housing and not detached accessories.
Yeah, so the Wilkes South secondary plan was put in place in '94 under Plan Winnipeg, was to allow large lots being unserviced. So Plan Winnipeg since the '70s has required that if you're doing a subdivision, that you be full range of municipal services. So the secondary plan went in this area of the city, and I believe also St. Patel around probably a little earlier, to allow the subdivision of properties to create 2.5 acre parcels and larger to be unserviced. So that's why there are houses getting permits today, and subdivisions can be allowed out there because of the Wilkes South secondary plan. It doesn't necessarily touch on, how heights of buildings or accessory structures. That had to do more of the creation of large lots unserviced in a rural atmosphere.
So it's only the zoning bylaw that speaks to that.
Yeah, in the zoning bylaw, if you look back, it's a rollover from 6,400. The previous zoning bylaw had the same kind of restrictions of 880 square feet, 2 feet from the side yard. That's rolled over since for 96 was when the 6,400 came in. these same regulations rolled over into the new zoning bylaw in 2008. So they haven't changed the zoning bylaw to update it, I'd say, for probably more than 30 years now. Vehicles have gotten a lot larger now. Look at the size of a common pickup truck now. So garages are becoming larger even in urban situations.
Okay, if there are no further questions, then thank you. You can stand down.
Thank you so much.
Are we at the time?
On the motions.
I'm happy to do it if anyone,
Sure, you go ahead. I took this here if you want.
no great race to.
I can, I can. If you want.
Uh,
I think we're probably in the line.
I think we're all out. Okay, so I'll hand the chair to Councilor Giroux. Okay, I'll move, we're on page 3, right? I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried.
I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried.
I'll move, we've never had one, you've got to go 4 for 4 here, right? Yeah, someday we'll have to have one split, so head to court on that. Then in accordance with subsection 247, sub 3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway. Is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property? And D, is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated, supporting reasons. I do want to add in, and Councilor Gilroy, I think there's a few strikes there to me here about sort of the landscaping requirements. I don't know specifics, but perhaps my colleagues can help with that. I think that's a later anyway. 2 things. I'm going to lean on D here a bit, the context of the area in which the property. 2 things from when I had the south of perimeter area in my ward. I remember some woman saying to me, oh, as I said to the city planner, I moved out here to get away from the city. And I'm saying, you're talking to the city councilor about the city planner about how you moved out here to get out of the city. You should have moved further, I guess, because it's still within the city, so there are still rules. But that said, I also remember knocking on the door on a guy probably on Berrydale, there south part of my ward that's still in my ward. Said the guy, so you're quite deep here, like 222. So this guy knew exactly how deep his law was, and it matters to the people who buy these properties because they have snowmobiles and they have welding shops and stuff in the background. Luckily, we're not getting into any of that here. I mean, this is the area, man. Like this is not Wolseley. This is not St. Vital Road. This is big lots, and with that, you kind of have to realize people are going to have big storage needs. People are going to have horses. We had that one with the lawn mowing last year that hopefully we won't revisit. I just think that's the nature. There's no water, there's no city sewer, there's no frontage, the levy paid. So I do think we could tear it down, I suppose. Maybe that will be the vote. They are gonna rebuild something. It's gonna be the most garish color they can come up with, probably. That's what I would do, frankly, if I had to do this. So we can't control that. So yeah, some trees would certainly be in line. Is it taller? We didn't make the guy tear down the one in St. Vital, the house that was built totally, the infill house in Glenwood, and we didn't not to dwell on that, but we didn't make him tear that down. So I'm a little reluctant to have these folks literally tear this thing down. The trees would help though. But I mean, I think you don't own your view. Like that's first day of law school. You don't own your view. And I have some sympathy with what Mr. King in a very good presentation said. There are rules, follow the rules, get the permit. But there's also a variant. There are variances and there's an appeal if you're denied the variance. That's what we're here on. So given the size of these properties, I also found one from my ward where you look at, I'm sitting there and Counselor Gilroy sitting here, and this, if you look at the video of that hearing in 2017, because she's chairing Innovation Committee. 69 Hindley, 50 by 200, 220, only 14 tall, but an oversized garage. And I mean, that's a much smaller lot than 186 by 500. So I think there's some precedent for approving these sorts of things. So with that, those are my supporting reasons. I think it fits the context of the neighborhood, but we should have some, please, colleagues, at some point, we should add in the landscaping thing.
I support those reasons. I don't need to. Hey, yeah, I'll write on the chair, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, okay, so, all in favor?
Well, in actuality, I will be not in favor because it is too large. If it had been, my supporting reasons would be that if it had been close to the 880 or to the 1700, like close, maybe it was 2300 or something like that, that would be more realistic. To build something that large, to me, is totally wrong. For square footage, not necessarily the height, but even the height, if you would have brought it down a wee bit. And again, closer to what is allowable, that would be realistic to me, but this is way too large. So that's why I would vote against it.
Should it be recorded?
Yeah, please.
I'll make some quick comments. The applicant made some compelling arguments about some deficiencies in our bylaws, which I know are fairly old. And so I'll be supporting Councillor Mays's motion, but I would like to see if there could be some amendment to that, whether that's the landscaping, adding trees, and removal of the other garage structure to lessen the variance. I would be supportive of that. We can banter about that, Councillor Mays, if you wanted to, but I think the landscaping and the extra trees could alleviate some of that view of the red accessory garage.
And that will be done in the next portion. So, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against.
And opposed? Okay, Robson's opposed. Okay,
So we'll move that the appeal be allowed in part and that the order be canceled, subject to. I'm open to thoughts on it, and frankly, if Councilor Santos has a lot of sway here, because if this thing goes 2-2, then the appeal is lost. So if Councilor Santos feels strongly about the other garage being removed, fire away. I'm open. I mean, if you got, I don't know how to do the landscaping if you want.
yeah, I would just say that they would hire an arborist to determine the trees that, the type of trees that would be required that is fast growing and how the proximity of where the trees would be. I think you need an arborist to do that kind of work. Could be an arborist and a landscape architect, and then we can have maybe shrubs and stuff added and making it pretty. Okay, and then
The accessory, it's not a hill that I would die on, but the landscaping and the privacy would be, yeah.
okay,
So I'd be supportive of that slight amendment.
yeah.
Can we, how do we put some teeth? Normally they were just like, it's a subject to plan approval, let the area
I was gonna
counselor.
mention there should be.
Can we send it to
Oh, it's an appeal, it's appeals, so yeah. So we just have to put it in
satisfaction of the
director.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
Which
so
director? Planning. Yeah, good.
that's typically where they go. So just to be clear, it would be that an arborist be hired to determine types and proximity of trees to be planted. We should specify where and why and.
well, because an arborist would need to do that because they have to be kind of
Generally on the northern side.
So on the
to
street.
screen the view from the living.
yeah.
There would be north and east.
So say northern side of the structure.
Can we add in there with an expectation that like you could buy like seeds to plant, or you could buy more mature trees?
Okay, do you have specific sizes in mind?
You can have a larger caliper.
Okay.
I think a caliper
Yeah.
of 3 feet, right?
Yeah.
So you have
Those are very.
more of the larger caliber trees.
And just so the public knows that like this is gonna be a cost because those are very costly to purchase.
Just to be clear, the large caliber greater than.
It's the largest.
I don't know.
No, I believe.
That's the arbor.
2 inches, 3
2 inches.
Range, yeah.
Trees larger than 2 inches caliber. 2 inches caliber to be planted on the northern side of the structure with the intent to provide visual screening to the satisfaction of the director. So an arborist be hired to determine the type and proximity of trees larger than 2 inch caliper to be planted on the northern side of the structure with the intent to provide visual screening to the satisfaction of the director.
Okay. All those in favor?
Let me understand one thing. If I've already voted against it, I guess I have to not be in support of this or can.
Not necessarily.
Okay, no, then if we're gonna do it, then please, let's do this.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm in support of this.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All is in
Okay,
favor.
I'll move it. It, just, we get a lot of these, this isn't, I mean, neighbors argue, we get them, we get the hairstyling ones in the basement, we get that god awful one we had in Transcona with the people battling for years in the duplex, like. It is unfortunate, but this is an attempt to try and relieve the effect on the neighborhood. I'll move that the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development be somewhat concurred in as amended. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.
All right, why don't we break for a few minutes? What do I mean by the word few, colleagues?
Just
5-ish?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're on to, we have fewer people on Loudon.
We do.
I better say, I mean, I'll miss my meeting again. So stupid. Usually I can say a little bit so. All right, so all the meeting back to order. We have one item left. Heading back up to the South Wilkes area for 1714 Loudon Road.
Item 2, sorry.
Go ahead.
Item 2 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a variance for 1714 Loudon Road under file DAV 123-160A/2024B. Members of the committee, please note additional communications were received in support of and in opposition to the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. At this time, I'll turn it over to a member of the administration for a brief summary.
Yes. Good morning, councillors and Mr. Clerk. The subject property is located on the west side of Loudon Road between Whitefer Road and Howe Avenue in the rural residential area of Wilkes South within the Assiniboia community and Charleswood Tuxedo Ward. 1714 Loudon Road is 189 feet wide by 575 feet deep and 2.5 acres in area. The proposal is to construct a detached garage, 34 feet wide, 34 feet deep, 16 feet high, and 1,156 square feet in area. The applicant has indicated that the proposed garage is required to provide secure storage space for their boat and space for a workshop area. Access to the garage will be from Loudon Road to a driveway located on the north side of the dwelling, leading to the proposed garage behind the dwelling. It is recommended that the construction of the detached garage be approved as the property is a large lot and several similar oversized accessory structures have been approved in the neighborhood. That concludes my summary. However, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so just inch us through then on this one, so this is the flip of what we just had. Director approved this one.
Yes.
And then a party is appealing against that.
That is correct.
Okay. Councilor Dobson.
I was just reading one of the letters and it said the homeowner is built on an elevation that's not, did they add or was that's the existing ground level?
That's correct. The homeowners had built a home with a walkout basement. So therefore the surrounding grade of the home has been raised
Oh,
to accommodate the walkout basement.
all right, okay, now it's clear now. Okay, thanks. Yes, that was a good point. Okay, on we go.
So we will start by hearing from the appellants. First, we have Kelly Greenslade.
Can I go last?
Yep, we can start with Stephanie Greenslade then, who is another appellant on the file.
Can I give this to you to try?
Yes, do I have the copies of those files?
Sent to you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I can look it up. Is it all of the files here? Or is it a specific file?
Right, that's.
The PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
You. I'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie Greenslade, and my husband Kelly and I and our family. We live at 1700 Loudon Road, so we're the neighboring property. And as I mentioned in my email, we are here today as concerned neighbors. We spoke to Andrew Ziegler in early April, and we've been voicing our concern to the city about this project since last August when the concerns became glaring. Our appeal to this variance is based on the fact that the proposed garage is not compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. As well, to express deep concern for what will likely happen if the homeowners at 1714 Loudon Road get approved to build a structure that is higher and larger than what the city allows. 1714 Loudon is the neighboring property just to the south of us. Last year, they began construction and they hauled in soil day after day for months and months to manufacture a massive hill. And now they want to put up an additional building larger than what is allowed. When we built our home 10 years ago, we had to conform and tailor our lot grade design to the lot grade design that was already in place for 1714 Loudon before anyone even built there. It does not appear that there's been any such consideration during this build at 1714. And as we've mentioned in the past, watershed is a huge concern coming off of this property, not just the volume, but the accelerated rate. And we would just like to make note of that once again on the record. Situated roughly 15 feet above the natural land is where they have built their house. It's not only aesthetically out of step from the natural landscape and surroundings, but they've taken away any opportunity for us to have any privacy. Privacy and trees and the natural landscape are the three key reasons that we built there. To allow them to build a higher than allowed massive garage on an already remarkably tall manufactured hill should not be allowed. We've extensively landscaped and built a pool. We now have zero privacy. Not even 20 to 30 foot trees can mitigate this. At one point, knowing that this lot had sat empty since we built, we thought maybe we put some ivy on our fence or a few extra trees for privacy some days when the neighbors do build. That situation is now laughable. We built something so precious to us in our backyard, something that we really thought out. And to have someone come in now and build something so unfitting has been very upsetting. I really wish that you could stand in our backyard. I wish that you could see what's happened and what I'm talking about. We absolutely love this space. We've invested a significant amount with a custom in-ground pool limestone finishing, a fireplace, outdoor kitchen. We love and we've enjoyed this space more than I can say. Now, absolutely nothing about this space is the same feel with a towering build overlooking our backyard. The images that we've sent do not do this justice. A potential 16-foot high build on the property line would not be an issue if it was being built at the natural elevation, but it's being built on a very tall hill. And we're scared that this will actually block the sun from our pool, from the grass we planted, from the trees that grow on our side. There are residents in this area who have built up their property for walkout basements, but they're sloped out the back to account for the walkout. And they have the garage or the built accessory at the original ground level. When we asked the homeowners at 1714 Loudon Road where they intend to build this 35 by 35 by 16 foot high building, they said they want it to be sitting at the same elevation on the hill. We've approached them a few times with our concerns and their responses leave us with very few answers and more questions. When we spoke last, a few weeks ago, there was no landscape plan in place, and that's made us even more nervous. Please do not allow this structure to be built any bigger or taller than what the city allows, and please enforce these homeowners to build within the bylaw and mitigate the damage that's already been done. That's all I have.
Councillor Santos.
So what I'm hearing is you're not opposed to them building an accessory structure. It's the height that you have concerns about.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, also you're concerned with the land drainage, the water.
For sure.
Okay.
Do you happen to know how tall that they built? Because I can see some of the, looks like it's built higher. Do you happen to know if you were to
Kelly May.
stand beside?
Ted May.
Oh, is Kelly gonna come and speak later and
Yeah.
speak to that? He can answer my question then. Okay, if he's coming later.
We work in the building industry. We have a custom kitchen and bath showroom and company. We work with custom home builders for a living. We've had many come by and take a look at what's going on. So opinions, lots and lots of opinions about what's happened, but I'm here to voice mine.
Why would the 20 to 30 foot trees not help with privacy?
Okay, so the elevation that they have built on, there is a home on it, and then this accessory structure is going to sit on that. So I'm guessing that 16 feet plus, what are they on, 10, 15 feet? That's 30 feet. I don't know of trees that will grow to be that in the time that we likely stay in this home.
Is that privacy from the house or from the?
We're speaking
there's some
about,
math angles
we're
here.
speaking about to the issue that we can today,
Yeah.
which is the garage that is going to be a big sheer structure on the property line, sitting at a very high elevation, overlooking our backyard.
Any other questions? Thank you for the presentation.
So this time we would call forward our second appellant, Kelly Greenslade.
He's the lead. Yeah. There's a part I didn't know it was gonna be.
It's a little out of order, but if the committee's amenable
Yeah, sure.
to hearing in support of the appeal for the appellant.
That's fine.
So in that case, this is Ted Charn.
Charn.
They'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
Good morning. We live at 1726 Loudon Road, which is south of this property. We've lived there for approximately 20 years. When we bought the lot, it was vacant for quite a few years, and the lot was always higher than our lot because the chap that owned it lived in Calgary, and it was always his dream to move back to Winnipeg and build a house. He did not do that. So not last year, but the previous year, the current owner brought in approximately about 3 feet of fill. And then beginning this year in May, nonstop for 10 months, fill brought in. The fill is, so what my engineer said, right now, it's about 3 meters high from grade. And that doesn't include like the finish with the topsoil, everything else. When the house was built, the house was kind of pushed off to one side closer to our property because I guess from what I've seen in a building permit or building plan that he had planned on building a shed, but I think his idea was putting this garage, you know, in place down the road. So in order to have enough room, he kind of pushed his build towards us. We have from his house, I would say 24 feet to our property line. So with the 12-foot high grade and the height of the house is approximately 32 feet. So we're looking at a wall 32 feet, basically 24 feet from our property line. When they submitted the lot grade design, there was no indication or no mention of a retaining wall. Currently, we have a 50-foot long retaining wall that was installed. The second thing is we hired a engineer basically to take a look at our lot to make sure that we're not flooded out because our septic tank is actually over on that side. And due to the height of this property, the engineer basically said if he tried to submit that plan today, it would not be approved by the city. So that kind of gave me red flags. And I guess my question is, why would it not be approved? I believe I submitted pictures to you all and the letters from my engineer stating, you know, what I just said. After looking at what happened on the last appeal, obviously there's going to have to be something done as far as one, having an engineer be hired in order to address any drainage concerns, just for the fact that, you know, you're going from a shed to a 34 or 35 by 35 foot garage. So we have no idea what that's going to do to neighboring properties. The other thing is dealing with landscaping, because apparently there is not a landscape design on this property. So right now we're kind of in no man's land. You know, I can go on and on, say that we had a private backyard, this and that, but now we're looking at, you know, an apartment sized building next to us. But what I'd like to be able to see is some kind of landscape design that addresses these concerns. You know, like a 2-inch tree is not going to do anything, to tell you the truth. You know, I'm 64 years old now, and you know, I don't have 20 years to sit there waiting for trees to get up to, you know, height where it's going to be, you know, doing anything. So that's all I have to say. If you have any questions.
So I'm trying to figure out, so you're enough of a mathematician to know 1700 is going to be on one side, then 1714, then 1726. So you're south?
We're south.
Okay. So all these photos, we have a lot of photos northerly facing. So,
yes,
okay.
Correct.
Okay. So and
I was actually sitting in our house when I took the picture of the chap on the ladder. So that kind of gives you an idea of the height.
Was it emailed to us?
Yes, it was.
It would be in the link that I had sent to you late yesterday.
It kind of gives you a perspective of, you know, what we're looking at.
You just give me a second. This is what really, I'm not mad at you. Just irritates, like, I'm looking at the document, what's available online, and then we get stuff submitted later, and I have to log in to like.
We were having some technical problems when we were at.
Just give me a second.
I've reset that link as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
The garage is gonna be, the garage is off center though, right? The garage is,
The garage is closer to the north side of the property, 27 feet from the north property line.
right, and that's the first,
Am I looking in
That's the,
support or opposition? Opposition?
In support of the appeal.
In support of the appeal.
1700s north,
Oh, yes,
36 south, garage Pacific north.
correct, yes.
You're showing pictures?
Angles here. Right. Any further questions? If not, thank you for your patience. Much longer morning than we had thought.
Yeah.
A little bit longer.
Okay, so at this time we will move to our second appellant, Kelly Greenslade. You come to the front, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation after you state your name. Will you need the PowerPoint presentation pulled up?
Yeah. But it's still here, right? My name is Kelly Greenslade. I live at 1700 Loudon with my wife Stephanie and my family. I'm here today to, discuss the ramifications of our neighbor building that's larger than permitted accessory building. I think that you need context to understand why, the proposed building is 16 feet high versus the allowable 13 feet, and why that's a big deal to us. It's because if you're looking at our front yard, from the front yard, this is looking at our fence. That truck that's on the left side there is probably about 1.5 feet lower than the finished garage level is going to be. Those posts on the right are 10 feet high with that little piece of wood at the top. So it gives you kind of some context. So from our graded property, not the natural level, but our graded property level, it's about 10 feet from that graded level to where the garage floor will be. So it kind of matches what Ted had said about the 3 meters.
Which way which way?
We're looking south. So we're looking west.
Yes.
In this picture.
Where's the street?
To the east.
To the rear.
Property on the right-hand side is the
behind
north property.
Behind the picture.
So, well, Loudon's out, yeah, we're at the rear of the property. Right, okay.
We're facing the rear. So this.
Sorry, I was with you right up until the time you said that. Back again for a second. We won't take a second of your time.
No.
So, I don't know.
This photograph is taken from the front yard, looking west towards the rear of the lot.
Is south of you? Correct. Okay. Thank you.
So then the next image shows you at grade, the natural grade standing, looking up at the garage and the structure that's beside us. So, and this is another one kind of showing you same kind of perspective. And this is looking to the south, facing the building. And that's it, I guess.
The proposed garage is off to the right from this perspective.
To be honest, we think we know where they want to put the garage. We don't know for a fact.
Okay, fair enough.
So considering, if you can see some of the trees in this picture, sort of 5-inch trees, they've been here for 30 years. There's a couple that one's on 1714's property. That tree won't last. That'll have to come down. We were very familiar with the trees and their abilities because we had to build on it and try to maintain all of the trees that we could when we were building. And 1 foot of dirt and it dies within a couple of years. So
My point in showing you these images is just that when you're talking about the height of a structure, it's about how it affects the visual and the experience to neighboring properties. So if you say you can build a 16-foot high building on top of a potentially 10 or higher foot pile of dirt, then now that's becoming, much higher, like 26 feet from the natural ground.
Councillor Dobson has a question.
I'm not quite clear when I was listening. Is that the existing garage right there?
This is a new home that they're building. This is not.
That's not the garage.
No.
Okay, the garage is going to be somewhere. Okay. Is there a retaining wall separating that pile of dirt to your property?
No.
Are you in a floodplain?
Not that I'm aware.
Just curious why the elevation, that's all.
The reason the difference in elevation, or sorry, what's your question?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious why it's built up so high.
Because they want to walk out the basements.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, they needed to build it higher.
All right, yeah, okay. And no retaining wall.
That's so far, but we don't have any idea of what this plan, because we've had very little communication from them about what their plans are.
And again, you're concerned with water drainage.
Definitely.
Okay.
Like my wife had said, we're in the building industry. We deal with architects. We actually know the interior designer that built this or designed this house. We work with them all the time, and everybody who we've talked to has said the same thing. They're shocked that this was allowed by the city to build. How it doesn't fit the area, and if there was going to be something built like this, most of them, out of good practice, would have communicated with their neighbors, let them know what was happening, put to bed any concerns they had. But none of that has happened. We just started hearing trucks being brought in, like Ted said, about 10 months ago. And for 10 months, they brought in dirt. And I mean, every day, all day. I don't know how many trucks, but I'm going to guess over 1,000 trucks came in. So we're in opposition to them building a building taller than is allowed. But as you can tell, we're obviously not happy with the decision that this building was allowed to be built at all, the home. But that's not why we're here. We're here about the garage or accessory building. We're concerned about it and our privacy. Like my wife said, you can look right into our backyard as though you're standing, and that's just standing on their driveway. There's no privacy.
The orangey brown fence, we see it there.
That's our fence.
So that's you, and then pools in somewhere.
Yeah, I thought I brought a picture of the pool, but I don't think I did. No, I didn't. No,
Okay.
No picture of the pool. Right.
All right.
That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions? If not, okay, thank you for your patience. Long morning today.
Okay, that had concluded those who had pre-registered in support of the appeal. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, we can move to those in opposition. We have Douglas King to speak in opposition to the appeal. Douglas, you'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name. I'm just going to address this. Okay, and have you sent that to me already?
Yes,
File is it?
It's the,
Hello, thanks for taking the time today. I'm sure by the end of this, you'll have heard enough about the Wilkes area.
I'm the property owner at 714 Loudon Road. And I'm in the process of building a home on that property. I have also applied for a building permit for a shed outbuilding on the same property. Background, which you've already heard for multiple reasons. The lot is a 2.5 acre lot, 189 of frontage, 575 feet of depth. So larger than your average City of Winnipeg lot. It is in an area of many different types of homes and buildings. The first 500 meters off the road off Wilkes has commercial and industrial lots. Directly across from my property is a large barn and horse riding stables. There are a broad mix of homes from small older bungalows to homes much larger than mine, and many of the properties are more densely developed. My house is set back off the road by 240 feet and is 61 feet from the neighbor's property line. My proposed shed building is 28 feet from the property line, and it's also 70 feet behind the neighbor's house, and it is 325 feet from Loudon Road. The reason for needing a slightly larger shed is to accommodate my boat and other lawn and garden equipment. The details for the size of the shed are in my application for the variance. This is a picture of the shed itself and the location. I have the approved lot design plan from the City of Winnipeg. If you scroll down, the yellow lines mark where the house is currently situated, and the other yellow mark shows where the shed is proposed to be located.
My apologies, Douglas. I'm just going to technical issues. I've lost your time, just FYI.
So to address my neighbors' concerns listed in their email to the City of Winnipeg, that the garage is not compatible with the area and the homeowner has built on an elevation not fitting with the neighborhood. I can show many examples of the variety of homes and outbuildings on Loudon Road, nearby streets. My shed is much smaller than the house horse barn across the street, and there are many examples of large outbuildings on Loudon Road, which obviously you're well aware of now. There are also a number of homes built on higher elevations. My house is built on the elevation required by the City of Winnipeg to accommodate a walkout basement. And there's pictures of other homes. The garage, this is from the email. The garage they want to build has a floor level that is approximately 15 feet higher than our backyard level. That being correct, the floor level of the shed would be approximately 6 to 7 feet above the lowest level of the land between the two properties. The level of their backyard is approximately 2 to 3 feet higher than the lowest level of the land. The shed would be built at the level that was approved by the City of Winnipeg Water and Waste Engineering Division, showing of the lot grading. Concern about structure blocking the sun. The trees currently on my property are higher than the proposed garage height. If anything is blocking the sunlight, it would be trees, not the shed. The side of the shed closest to the neighbor has a roof height below the height required for the variance at 12 foot 9 inches. And there's a picture from the location of the shed. Forcing water at an unmanageable rate onto our property. The shed is 28 feet from the property line. I've already emailed and spoken to the neighbors about creating a swale on my side of the property to deal with any water issues. The elevations are in the lot grading plan approved by the City of Winnipeg. The homeowners have told us they do not have landscaping plans, was another concern. We do have a plan for that side of the property, which has been discussed on more than one occasion with the neighbors and is also described in my email to them on February 22nd of this year. And lastly, I understand this hearing is for approval to build slightly higher than allowed, and that's based on the roof design, and slightly more square feet than allowed. Therefore, I require a variance. And this hearing is to determine whether I'm granted the variance or not. That doesn't change the fact that I could build a shed that meets the current zoning requirements. It would be at the same elevation. It could be the same length or longer along the north side of my property. And if I change the roof design, it would be taller than my proposed shed. My assumption, and it's just an assumption, is that the neighbors to the north at 1700 Loudon Road enjoyed the fact that they had an empty 2.5 acre lot to the south of them. I don't know if there was any type of house or development at 1714 Loudon Road that they would be supportive of. Below that is an email that I sent to Stephanie in February discussing regarding the shed and landscaping ideas. I took a measurement the other day, and from the corner of my garage to the property line, it's approximately 62 feet. The idea for landscaping on my side of the property line is to allow for a swale, a very shallow ditch of approximately 3 feet across to allow for any water to drain from the back of the property and out along my driveway to the front ditch. I've had the elevation checked to ensure that the water moves out to the front of the property and out to the road. I also said, have you had any issues in the past with standing water in that area? If you have, it may make sense to include that drainage at the same time. Also, I think a two-tiered approach to move up from the current ground level to the driveway would make the most sense. It will allow for enough area, 20 plus feet at 2 levels for trees and shrubbery, effectively creating 20 feet of a green barrier between the properties. You know, my cottage, I have about 15 feet of trees between myself and the neighbor, and you aren't able to see through them. I said that just accounts for the greenery on my property. You can add additional trees, etc., on your side as well to further enhance the privacy. And then we get into the details of the shed with it being just over at dimensions and explaining the reason for needing that size and asking for their approval, which
Thank you. I think there are some questions. I think Councilor Kilroy is first, then Councilor Dobbs.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, the swale that you're proposing, is that a requirement or is just something you're offering?
it's in the lot design. They want to ensure that water moves effectively off the property.
All right, that's all I asked.
Two things. You said you're here to get, the hearing's about the variance. Actually, the hearing is the appeal of the variance.
Right.
If this ends 2-2, that's good news for you, because then the appeal is denied, lost on the tie. So it's not so much you wouldn't need 3-1 to get the variance. The variance has been granted. This is an appeal against it. So I got a little fogged on the feet. So it's 34, 60 I won't get into directions again, but the closest the wall of the shed garage, I don't think anything rides on what we call it, right? It's you say shed, I'll say shed. Okay, the outbuilding, you're 27 feet to the property line?
Yes.
And so it's the 61 feet is
from the house. Currently where the house and driveway is. So the pictures you saw of the garage is 61 feet from the property line.
Okay, so house is 61 feet out, house and garage shed align here, and then the shed is 34 wide. By subtraction, then we have 27 feet left to the property.
Right.
Okay. I will follow up until which, the variance is being sought. I want to, you said I could still build something without even needing a variance, and that is true. I'm not sure about the length, but the square footage and the height are certainly not wildly in excess of what's permitted. And then there are the conditions. You're okay with there are 3 conditions that were put on by the admin, which were detached garage shall be maintained in substantial conformance with plans submitted. Detached garage is to be used for storage and maintenance / repair of personal items. And variance granted by this order shall terminate upon demolition, destruction, removal of detached garage. So no issue with any of that.
Yep.
I guess there's a cross appeal. Okay. And the swale is part of the, not that the landscaping plan and its virtues or shortcomings is in front of us, but that's part of the That's part of the lot grading thing?
Yes, lot grading approval
Okay.
plan, yes.
Okay. That wasn't a question from me, was it? Okay, I don't think there are any other questions, so thank you for the presentation. And on then, Mr. Clerk.
Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to the appeal?
Oh, sorry, I did have one question. Sorry. No, we need you back.
Back up.
Just two questions, really. Yeah. What is an 11-foot wake tower?
Oh, the boat.
Yeah, that's all I.
It's not a large boat. It's a 21-foot boat. With it on the trailer, it's probably 29 feet with the tongue. There is a tower on the boat used for wakeboarding or wake surfing. That extends it past the normal height. So it's about 11 foot, the height of the boat.
Why do you? I know we get into these, it's to the mid peak, and then you said, I could probably go this side, if I just change the angles on the roof, and I'll take, I don't know, I mean, nothing rides on that, I suppose. Why do you need the 16? 2-foot truss. So essentially a 12-foot opening is what I need, 12-foot clear inside height. You add 2 feet for the truss. The roof trusses are 24 inches. And just the angle of the roof, you end up at 15 feet, 7 inches. As opposed to 13. Had I designed a peach roof, doesn't match the house, creates actually, but we're perhaps more of an issue for the neighbor. But we are, yeah, and then the measurement there would be.
Yes, because it's a mono style, we take it to the highest point. Yeah.
Yeah, the style of
Yeah,
changes
style of
the heights allowed.
yeah, according to the zoning bylaw, we take the height of the mono style roof to the highest point.
And I think it's a point.
Oh, the shanty style roof, shed style roof, shanty,
One side.
Yes,
Yeah.
got one slope.
which is this type of roof.
Right, so his,
Because it's slanted.
Mr. King's point is, had I gone A-frame, for lack of a better.
Gable.
It would be taller.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is the maximum height of said some shanty style north?
It would be the south side, away from the northern neighbor. So the highest point, yes,
Okay, so highest point is in fact
the south, yes.
closer to his home than.
Yeah, 61 feet from the property line.
Okay, thank you. Got it now. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for that. Anything arising out of that? If not, okay, thank you. Back to the city clerk.
All right, is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to the appeal? And is there anyone here to speak for information on the appeal? Seeing none, we can go to questions for the administration.
I have one question for the walkout. Is that, I'm not familiar with walkouts. So we allow building up the property to allow a walkout?
Yeah, according to the Water and Waste Department, Engineering Division, they approve the grade changes for walkout basements.
Okay.
To allow for that. Yeah.
Versus having them walk out into a hole, basically, because you're not on the side of a hill.
Yeah.
Okay, just wasn't familiar with that, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the, I think we covered this. Does admin take any issue, any quarrel with the foot, the determination of distance that was just cited there by the?
Grade height?
No, that's not.
Distance to the property lines?
That.
Oh, yeah, they can go as close as 2 feet potentially, but they're providing a 27-foot side yard.
And roof angle, he does need a variance to get to 16.
Correct.
He's permitted 13, but
Yes.
I think we just went over this different style of roof.
Yes.
Might in fact change that, okay. And the maximum height of what's being proposed is as far from the property line.
Yes, it's the
Okay.
furthest from property line.
Again, we could put, should we want to, we could put some tree planting requirements in here if we wanted to.
For additional screening?
Okay.
Yes.
Floor area here, 1156, wherever we just were on Liberty, there were a number of the city has allowed variances of.
Correct. In this area up to 1,800 square feet.
Or 2
And 1,200.
Councilor Simon.
Do you have the report there from Water and Waste where they talk about the swales? What's the timeline of installing the swales after the home and the shed's been built? There should be, I know there's a bit of a time frame, right?
Probably before occupancy.
Before occupancy.
Yes.
Okay, the swale should be
Yes.
installed. Okay.
I may further add that there is a swale easement at the rear of the property for drainage, for additional drainage.
Oh, good, that'll be in front of us then in a few years. But you know, we actually referred all that stuff to admin, as a matter of fact. Okay, is there an attached garage? That's what that looked like. It was a fair question from
Yes.
Mr. Dobson, but there's nothing.
No, that was all
Reach
part
of a bylaw, nothing by having an additional outbuilding, whether you call it a garage or shed or.
No, that was part of the dwelling.
Okay. And whether or not somebody thinks that fill was a good idea or not, that's not in front of that ship has sailed.
That was approved with the building permit for the home.
It's not part of this. Thank you. That's in essence what.
Yes.
And it's important to know that, so the slant of the roof is kind of why we're here. If the roof would have went like this, which would have been larger and didn't really fit in with the house, it would be, we wouldn't be here.
No variance.
No variance.
For the size though, we would be here still.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
We'd be here on that.
Size.
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions for admin. We're back to rebuttal then.
Yes, so we will go back to the appellants who can speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Kelly Greenslade? Would you like to come up for the rebuttal? No? Stephanie Greenslade?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, the issue here is not that someone built here. The issue here, we deal with custom homes every day. I love the custom home industry and love being a part of it. I think that we made it clear that that there is no privacy left for us. If there is consideration to trees, I think that would be basic, right? Because again, trees take time to grow, and saying that this property sits 6 feet above where we are is incorrect. When the homeowners were there just the other day, we were talking, and they are above my head. Like, they're above our fence. Like, they're vehicles that come into their garage, which isn't even at a finished elevation yet, is way above an 8-foot marker that we have. So again, there's no sense in going back and forth on that. But privacy for sure is an issue. Drainage for sure is an issue. We've brought those up. I think that it's just been, it hasn't felt very fruitful in this process to be able to see what's happening and not be able to do much about it. This was an opportunity to say, well, this isn't just a 16-foot garage or shed. This is going on an elevation that is much higher. Again, like I said, I would have no problem with what this drawing looks like. We don't know where it's going to be yet on the property. That information was not given to us. But there's nothing wrong with the design of it or even the size of it. It's that it's going to be built up on this hill, and that is going to be upwards of over 25 feet when it's all done. And that's something that we're looking at. That's now something that is up there, 25 feet above our pool. And he says that there's trees. There's a handful of trees that's left from construction there. There's nothing in between us and this newly manufactured dirt hill. And the shed will be up there as well. You can imagine what we're looking at. That's all I have.
Is there some standard setback here like everyone's gotta be, just seems so unfortunate. Everyone's got these huge properties. If he's 100 feet in front of you, I mean, everyone seems to be aligned in terms of setback. Is that a standard? You gotta be 200 back?
When they requested the building permit, we would have provided them a setback. And if they chose, they could have gone back further.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge lots, and then we have this very unfortunate series of situations where, you know, you'd think it would be more private if the house was 100 feet further, you know, east or west. But it isn't. All right.
And you can imagine what it does to resale too. Like when we were listening to the people prior to us, it has a much different feel. And it's not just for our enjoyment, but it's a significant investment for us. Not only what we put into the backyard, but what our home is worth. I certainly worry about that now. The amount of stress that this has caused is, I can't even say it, but at least it's on record now.
Okay. Thank you for coming down. Thanks for your patience today. That's been a long morning. All right, Mr. Clerk, we're at that time. Did the last one, so what do you?
I can do this one. Okay, so, at the Winnipeg Public Service, sorry, make sure I'm on the wrong spot, right spot, okay? I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
I move the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye. That's carried.
So that in accordance with subsection of the City of Winnipeg, the charter is, so just to make sure I'm right with the clerk. I am supportive of the garage development, which is supporting the appeal, right?
No, opposition to the appeal.
Opposition, so,
If you're supporting the building of the garage, you are in opposition to the appeal.
okay, opposition to the appeal, so it is not.
Is consistent.
It is.
Because of the variance itself
Okay.
we're referring to.
So it is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan. It does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including the area separated by the property by a street or waterway. It is a minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw and not the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. My supporting reasons is, we learned a little bit about the design of the garage and how that kind of plays into this. I feel like the water, the drainage issues, the city has looked into that, and there is gonna be a swale being built, and that will alleviate that. And that I don't believe that the building of the garage is going to have an adverse effect. However, I will try to listen to the community as much as we can. I'll be asking for more trees to be planted. So I'll do that in the next go round.
Any further?
I'd like to put in a comment. The elevation that it was lifted was approved prior to this, so this is not part of it. The actual garage is not excessive. According to the rules, it's going to be 15'7" or under 16 feet, and the square footage is not excessive. So for that reason, I'll be supporting it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would adopt all of that, but the loss of privacy here is really more to do with the house than the garage, and given the other garages in the neighborhood that have been improved, it would be hard to reject this. So, okay, we'll call the question then.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
And that the appeal be allowed in part. And DAV 123-160/2424 BB canceled. Okay, and is this where I put in the trees?
Yes.
Okay,
So it'll be,
because
you'll be concurring in the recommendation of the director
Right?
with amendments.
With
So that'll be
amendments,
the
yeah.
following one.
So yeah, I'd like to have more trees be added to the property. To the side of the neighbors, so I don't, I'm gonna get the director kind of the approval process so that we can make sure that it's right, because I don't know which side it's on. So towards the neighbor. North side. North side?
Yes.
Okay. With the final approval from the director.
So that, sorry, trees for the purpose. I'm just gonna steal my wording here. With that trees be planted for the purpose of providing visual screening. On the north side of the property to the satisfaction of the district. So that'll be a new condition added. Okay.
You got a map with north at the top.
Yeah.
All right, any further comments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
And that the decision with the director of planning and property development be concurred
As amended.
as amended.
As amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
And move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
Just a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you, Councilor Dobson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll be back at appeals in March of. Well, some of you will be back if you sit on other commissions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not on, so March from the.